At 6:59 p.m., we will now certify the closed session. Be it resolved that the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors work session on September 20th, 2022, the board hereby certifies by recorded vote that to the best of each board member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. If any board member believes that there was a departure from the requirements of the Act, he shall so state prior to the vote, indicating the substance of the departure. The statement shall be recorded in the board's meeting. We'll now just do a roll call vote. Mr. Cheshire?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Yes.
Mr. Dudley?
Yes.
Mr. Scares?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
Chairman Ingram?
Yes.
The meeting is hereby certified. Now it's appropriate to adjourn the work session, and I believe it's time to start the business meeting.
Okay, I now call the Board of Supervisors business meeting Tuesday, September 20th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at the board meeting room, 39 Bank Street, Chatham, Virginia. Ms. McCluster, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Cheshire?
Yes.
Mr. Dalton?
Here.
Mr. Dudley?
Present.
Mr. Scares?
Here.
Mr. Warren?
Here.
Mr. Ingram?
Present. If you all would join with us in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. And if you would now stand for our Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Are there any items to be added to the agenda?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. Dalton, go ahead.
Items to be added. I make a motion for the following revisions to the agenda. The appointment of the interim county administrator as item 13A. Add finance committee recommendations to the matter from work sessions as item 13B. Shell Building Moral Obligation Agreement as 13C. Remove the appropriation of the public safety funds in the amount of $174,500 from the budget public hearing and add it to the new business as item 12C.
Hey, would you tell me what B was again?
Sir,
13B.
it's 13B.
Yes, sir.
Recommendations to the matters from the work session
Okay.
as item 13B.
Okay. And that is your motion. What about a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Cheshire. Any discussion? If not, gentlemen, cast your vote. You're going to stay. Okay. What about a motion to approve the agenda, please?
I make a motion we approve the agenda with the additions.
Thank you, sir. What about a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that? Not. Cast your vote. Okay, we're down to item 7, which is consent agenda. What about a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton. What about a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cheshire. Any discussion on that? Would cast your vote. And we're now down to item 8, which is presentation. So, gentlemen, if you would meet me up front, we have at least 2. straight on, Doctor. Yes, come on. The NASA guy. What do we want to do about that? Okay, that's good. We've got two certificates that we'd like to present, and both of them have quite a bit of meaning to them. This first one goes to Kaylin, our clerk, so you come on up here, Kaylin. And it's truly an honor to read this to you. And this certificate of excellence says, the Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere congratulations to you on the International Institute of Municipal Clerks designation of Certified Municipal Clerk. IIMC grants the CMC designation only to those municipal clerks who complete demanding education requirements and who has a record of significant contributions to the local government, their community, and the state in Virginia. There are 206 clerks registered for the Virginia Municipal Clerks Association, and out of those, only 57, which is 27%, have their certification. So we applaud you on your educational accomplishments and achievement of this milestone and congratulate you on your pursuit of professional excellence. Thank you so much, Caitlin. There you go.
Sure, I'll say a word. Usually I sit and don't say anything, but I do thank you all, the board, all the staff. Without staff support and the board support, I could never have achieved this. They allow me time to go and sit at these conferences and to learn all this vital information that it takes to keep this position going and to make sure that we are in compliance with new legislation and all of that. So I thank you all.
And that certificate does not really say it all. She just does a fabulous job for us and tries to keep it straight, and so we're good. Okay, you good? Mr. Mundy, if you'd come up here. Unfortunately, this is your last night here. You never know, there might be a round 3. Clarence, this reads, this is a certificate of appreciation. The Pennsylvania County Board of Supervisors expresses its sincere appreciation to you for your service to the county as interim county administrator. Your time and dedication to the county allowed operations to continue and the budget to be passed. Balanced budget with no tax increases, I may add. We thank you for your exemplary service to the county, and we wish you the very best in your future endeavors. Given this day, 20th day of September 2022, congratulations, sir.
I say to the Board of Supervisors and Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for allowing me the opportunity to come back what I consider home to serve Pennsylvania County again. One of my favorite jobs in my career was being the county administrator full-time here, and I was blessed enough to retire 5.5 years ago and never thought that I'd get to come back home and serve again, but I have enjoyed the challenge. It has been a pleasure working with this dedicated and professional county staff and also serving the citizens of Pennsylvania County and the board. When I started my career in fire and EMS many, many years ago, I never thought I would be in a position in local government administration. And I truly cherish the friendships that I've gained here. And you never know, I may see you again, but thank you again for allowing me to come back home.
Anybody else?
I'll get this cable. Ain't no problem.
Okay, another presentation. This would be item B. This is dealing with the 1% sales tax, and I believe it's Dr. Jones. Oh, excuse me, Dr. Walker. Come on up, Martha. Hey.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Mr. County Administrator, thank you so much for letting me speak to you each month about our 1% sales tax referendum. You know it will be on the November 8 ballot. You know that some voters will actually begin voting in the next few days. We want everyone to understand the impact this will have on our county and our schools. In the foyer are handouts that define all the ways that this 1 cent sales tax will impact our school buildings. But it's not our buildings, it's our children. It impacts our children. It also impacts our economic development for the county as our community continues to grow and build. I hope that each of you received a postcard in the mail last week. I hope that you checked your mailbox and it was there, because this is one of the tools that we are using to get into every household to encourage people to go and see. Take a look at the website. See what 1 cent will do. See the impact $3.8 million per year for the next 19 years will make on our 10 elementary schools and our career and technical center. We are so happy to have with us tonight the principal of Pittsylvania Career and Technical Center, Ms. Jessica Dalton, and Ms. Angela Rigney, who is the director of Career and Technical. They also have brought with them some students. You know that part of the proposed renovations and construction will allow $12 million to be invested in career and technical. We understand that our business and industry are asking for this increase. So everyone that's here tonight, everyone that's online, we ask you to listen carefully to the message that this group brings.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, Dr. Walker. Good evening, board members and Pittsylvania County citizens. My name is Angela Rigney, and I'm the Director of Career, Technical, and Adult Education with Pittsylvania County Schools, and a parent of a student at Chatham High School in the STEM Academy. Pennsylvania County Schools has been a key partner in developing and implementing various initiatives that greatly benefit the region. The Pittsylvania Career and Technical Center has been very instrumental in laying a firm foundation in the economic growth and transformation of the region. Through partnerships and collaborations, the students in Pittsylvania County have the opportunity to train on high-tech equipment, earn college credits, and gain the knowledge and skills necessary to be prepared for careers in high-wage, high-demand industries. This collaborative team is working together to create regional training facilities, expand capacity and feeder programs, and increase awareness of career opportunities in the fields of agriculture, automotive, IT, precision machining, welding, automation and robotics, engineering, hospitality and tourism, public services, HVAC, industrial maintenance, electricity, education, and health and medical sciences. These initiatives that I've had the opportunity to be a part of at the elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, the STEM Academy, and the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center have primarily been funded by grants and other funding sources, totaling approximately $8 million. Thus, in order for us to move this region in the right direction, Pittsylvania County citizens need to invest in our children's future to provide them with safe and innovative learning environments that prepare them for careers of the future. The career and technical education programs at the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center and other programs need to be renovated and facilities expanded in order for us to meet the needs of the region. I challenge each citizen to answer this question. Do you go to the doctor, have an automobile, have a home, wear clothes, have a phone, have heat and air conditioning, use electricity, eat, and the list could go on? If you answered yes to any of these, then you should invest in our students, because we are training them to be the next doctors, mechanics, electricians, machinists, nurses, cosmetologists, welders, HVAC technicians, police officers, first responders, teachers, cooks, and the list again could go on. The success and recognitions our programs are receiving across the country and internationally should make every citizen in this region proud and want to invest in the capital improvements of the facilities. I extend an invitation to each and every one to visit the Career and Technical Education Center and let us show you firsthand what many identify as the best-kept secret in Pennsylvania County. I hope the stories and message you hear from us this evening will encourage you to vote yes for PCS this November. At this time, I invite Ms. Jessica Dalton to the podium.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you regarding the 1% sales tax that will benefit the students and staff at the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center. As the principal at PCTC, my job is to manage and oversee the operations of the building. And as many of you know, as Ms. Rigney just identified, many grant dollars have been invested into state-of-the-art equipment to streamline training purposes of our programs. Having a building that's outdated with new heavy equipment in there puts us at a risk we'll face issues such as having enough electricity to run the equipment in our automation robotics lab, our welding lab, our precision machining lab, and our new IT academy. In addition, unlike other schools, we do not have a common meeting place for areas such as competitions for our Skills USA and our students. This has caused a burden. We at times have to find different locations and sites to conduct these meetings and host these competitions. You heard from our CT Director, Ms. Rigney, and the need and impact of economic development and our integral part of that in supporting our local regional needs in industry and business. If we look 5 to 7 to 10 years down the road, we need to evaluate the programs and the new programs that our region will need. At this time, PCTC is at capacity. Ms. Rigney and myself are now currently hearing the needs of our partners and at times cannot meet their needs due to spacing issues in our school. Now currently some of our labs hold a classroom, and this also creates spacing and sometimes safety concerns due to the fact that we are essentially out of room and space at our school. Many of our programs require accreditation, and with that we must meet those needs to keep our programs current and open. Again, this is a good problem to have because it shows growth and improvement in our numbers. However, we need to think about the future and where we will be if space continues to run out. This 1% sales tax will provide the opportunity for growth for our community and our region and support those needs. This evening, you have the opportunity to hear from PCTC alumni from our precision machining program. These students are now enrolled at Danville Community College and ask them to come forward to give their testimonies.
Come forward and welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Layden Wilson. During my junior and senior year of high school, I attended Pennsylvania County Technical Center and was a student in the precision machining technology program. During my time there, I found my passion and my future career in machining, and so many others found their passion in other programs. PCTC has changed me into a brighter and a more self-efficient person where no one else could. I had the honor to be in a club called Skills USA and compete in the CNC milling specialist category. I succeeded in becoming a district champion, state champion, and traveling to Atlanta, Georgia to place 6th nationally. I even had the opportunity to speak with the GoTech students at the middle school explaining my role at PCTC and encouraging them to work up to becoming a student there. Today, there's a huge disadvantage when it comes to students getting the education they desire to have. No one should have to pay the amount of money for college just to achieve a career job. That's exactly what PCTC helps with. Students come out with certifications ready to be hired without the push for college. Yes, I agree that every student should go to college, but some people aren't as fortunate as others. This technical center offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for students to get ahead of their future. Even though PCTC has so many benefits and is an outstanding place to learn, the facility has some problems. When I was in the precision machining program, everything had to be perfect, precise, and without room for error. But we were faced with problems in the shop. We have a water leak that caused rust on a milling table, and the machine was out of commission for a while. Our CNC milling machine has a major air leak, and we were not able to use it the entire time I was there and the years before. We also have other air leaks that has caused problems in the shop, limiting our production process. These obstacles have put this program behind on the education that it potentially offers. I can only speak for the program that I was most familiar with, but I'm certain the same things are happening to every program. The condition of a facility affects the education students can potentially have by limiting what they can learn. This 1% sales tax will benefit PCTC in extravagant ways. With that money, we could add up to 15 more programs, extend the building, and bring more and more students to give the same experience I once had. Ms. Rigney works to secure grants for textbooks, equipment, and tools. That money cannot be used towards capital improvements. Localities need to invest in capital improvements for their children. Our workforce is depending on our education system and a technical center that can make our students a part of the pipeline that is already in place. One last question I want to leave for you all is to answer is, would you want your children and grandchildren to go to a school like this to get a grasp on their future career? Thank you for your time, and I hope my words can influence you to vote yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Blake Hughes, and I'm a 2022 graduate of Dandruff High School. My junior and senior years were spent as a part of the precision machining program at the Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center, better known as PCTC. I'm here to talk about the 1-cent sales tax that can benefit the schools in Pittsylvania County, especially PCTC. The Pennsylvania Career and Technical Center was built in 1978, and not many renovations have been done there in the last 44 years. The 1-cent sales tax will fund the construction and renovations for several of the 20 programs offered. Just in the machining shop alone, there are multiple repairs and renovations needed. Other programs can be expanded and some even relocated. All of the programs would benefit from the sales tax increase and entice more students as well. While paying a 1-cent sales tax more seems terrible to some people, it is actually an investment for the future of Pennsylvania County. It is well worth it to enhance the educational needs in our area so that students can participate in hands-on training programs in a safe, equipped building that allows them to prepare for their future as well as ours. So with this being said, I hope on November 8th you will vote yes with me to pass the 1-cent sales tax. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Good job.
Thank you very much. I think when you hear the story and the impact that it makes from our students, then we know that this is the right thing. So thank you very much. Gentlemen, this is important. You know that. We have very few resources to fund school construction and renovation. Do you have any questions or comments? Thank you for your ongoing support.
Martha, I was going to say is that I'm pretty much sure we're all in favor of this. It's a fair tax. It's across the board. And, you know, our citizens are taxed too much. And with this, others that don't live here that's passing through help to pay to fix our schools. And this is totally separate from the lottery money. So y'all are doing a good job getting the message out.
One point that you just brought up that we should mention, this past week we had a festival at VIR. Last year's festival brought in, according to our Ms. Vanderhyde and the County Department of Finance, between 26 and 28% increase in sales tax. That was paid by our tourists. So yes, Halifax County, who passed this a few years ago, also in their study found that it was about a 25 to 30% sales tax that was paid by people who visited. And remember, this isn't on your groceries, this isn't on medicine, it is not on some agricultural products. It's just on when we go shopping, when we pay our meals tax, when we go to Danville now and to other counties that are passed, we are paying this now. So thank you for your support.
Yes, ma'am. Thank y'all. Good to have y'all. Thank you. All right. I believe up next is Dr. Jerry Wallace. Are you here? Good to have you, sir. Come on up. For those of you that don't know Dr. Wallace, he is the new president of DCC. I'm a proud alumni, 1989, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Good evening, Chair, as well as the Board of Supervisors.
Congratulations.
County Administrator. I have one slide. I don't want to take too much time, but I want to also recognize our representation from Pennsylvania County on our advisory board. We have Mr. John Mead, Ms. Ann Cassida, and Barbara Brown that represent Pennsylvania County. I am joined this evening with our VP of Academics and Student Affairs, Dr. Johnson, as well as our VP of Institutional Advancement and Development, Shannon Hare. So just glad to have the opportunity to speak with you. I feel as a newcomer to the area, it was important for me to come and speak and give you a little bit about myself. So my bio, I'm originally from Muskegon, Michigan. It's a small town on the west side of Michigan. My wife is from Beckley, West Virginia, about 3 hours away. So we come here from Hastings, Nebraska. So about 14 hours away, but a little bit closer for my wife, so we're glad to be here. Update of my first 60 days. I've been actually in Pennsylvania County a lot. On the workforce side, I've actually had an opportunity to tour Amthor International, so I got to see that plant and learn a little bit about that company, as well as meet with your superintendent, Dr. Jones. He's been a wonderful addition to someone that I can throw ideas off of, as well as I've actually toured PCTC, and that place is a gym. We have a number of students coming to DCC, and they're above par by far with their skill set that they're coming out of PCTC with. On a personal level, I actually came to Chatham for the Chatham Cruise-In because I'm a classic car lover. So I got to walk around and actually eat at JT's. So I've enjoyed my time in Pennsylvania County. Some of the exciting work that we have at DCC that is going on is our cybersecurity. We're going to launch that. We actually are going to host a cyber competition on October 7th. But we're looking to start a 16-week short-term workforce training, and this is actually funded by the efforts of Senator Kane and Senator Warner, as we're going to train 180 completers by the time of January 2024. We are also exploring a collaboration with PCTC, as you heard from a couple of our students, but we want to get as many certifications and degrees available in Pennsylvania County as we can. So that's why my VP of Academics is here, because we're looking to explore how we can get more completers that don't have to travel to Danville, that we can actually do it here in Pennsylvania County. So we're looking at that. And another big one that is coming is our aviation maintenance. This is a partnership with Everett University, and this is going to be a big, as we see the casino coming in and more people coming for hospitality and enjoyment, they need those airplanes fixed when they come into town. So that's another major one. And then last but not least, with Everett University, we're partnering. We know that our completers can go to Everett with a 2+2, but we want to look at Everett students actually taking DCC classes, so they won't have to replicate some of the hands-on programs that we have. They'll be able to dual enroll with us as well. So just wanted to give you an update about myself and some of the things that we're working on, but very happy to be here this evening and to learn more. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Dr. Wallace. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, now we're down to hearing of the citizens. Each person addressing the board under hearing of the citizens shall be a resident or landowner of the county or the registered agent of such resident or landowner. Each person shall step up, give his or her name and district in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. No person shall be permitted to address the board more than once during hearing of the citizens. All remarks shall be addressed to the board as a body and not to any individual member thereof. Hearing of the citizens shall last for a maximum of 45 minutes. Any individual that is signed up to speak during said section who does not get the opportunity to do so because of the aforementioned time limit shall be given speaking priority at the next board meeting. Absent chairman's approval, no person shall be able to speak who is not signed up. Ms. McCluster, who do we have?
Irvin Moss.
Irvin Moss, come on up, sir. Good to have you, sir.
Thank you. Glad
Yes, sir.
to be here. Just wanted to say thank you for giving me this opportunity to voice something that's laying on my heart, something that's very dear to me, something that I can't walk away from. But anyway, let me introduce myself. My name's Irvin Moss. I'm a 65-year-old lifelong resident of the Vandola community. I live there, I worship there, I shop there, and it's my home. And I with the good Lord's will, I hope to die and be buried in the Vandola community. That's who I am. That's where I love. Here, about a month ago, I was deeply hurt by Pennsylvania County. Deeply hurt and saddened when I learned that they're trying to destroy my community. My community has always been residential, quiet, peaceful, and law-abiding. And all of a sudden, this casino, the almighty casino, has come aboard, and everybody's got dollar signs in their eyes. They're trying to snatch up every piece of property in the outlying area so they can make a quick, easy buck. As long as I got a breath in me, I will fight the casino. I think it's the devil, and I will fight and tell anybody that. But I am really offended with the powers that be here in Pennsylvania County that want to put a trailer park in my residential area. What is up with that? I don't get it. A residential area with a mega trailer park in it. I'm sorry, I just don't get it. I'm old school, I'm old fashioned, and I'm proud of it. And as long as I'm here, I will fight this thing. There are many issues at hand. There's traffic. They've got 6 intersections of roads there in that area. There's no way a mega park can handle the traffic. We got strains on our fire departments. We got strains on our health care. We've got strains on security. This is not the place for a mega park in my community. And I don't understand it. How many of you, Board of Supervisors, would vote for this if it was in your area? This is my home, my community. And I want to know how many would honestly say you would vote it if it was coming in your back door. That's all I got to say. And good evening. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Who do we have next?
Bonnie Moss.
Bonnie Moss. Come on up, Bonnie. Good to see you. You might pull that mic down a little bit, Bonnie. Thank you.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for listening to me or hearing me. Many of you here know you're going to hear the second part because that's my brother that just spoke. Vandola is dear to all that live there. Our community is not a young community. We're an older community. The average age around me is 60 plus years old. You bring this added traffic to these older people, it's going to be a danger. It's going to be traffic issues, and also the safety of my neighborhood. An RV park, this RV park is going to have 454 slots. That's not in addition to the casinos they're planning on putting there. 454 slots. If you put 6 people in an RV, just guesstimating ballpark, on a full weekend, that gives you over 2,000 people sitting in my backyard. My other issue is I'm a life member, volunteer EMS person. What are we going to do about crime? What are we going to do about the drugs, the alcohol abuse? What are we going to do about the policing? We're already on limited staff out in our area. Police presence is very, very low. We need to know answers. We haven't been told answers. We found out about this at the beginning of September by a small sign sitting up on the top of Vandola Church Road. No information given to us. The other issue is the people that live on the side of Vandola Church Road, and I'm sure they're beautiful homes. They don't want to look across and see a trailer park. They don't want to have noise till midnight. They don't want to have people they don't know in their backyards. If you lose your money gambling, where are you going to go looking for it so you can play some more? This is my home. Please consider wisely before you vote.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, ma'am.
Who do we have next?
Carolyn Bagley.
Hey, Carolyn. Been a while. Good to see you.
Good evening, Board and Chairman. And I'm Carolyn Winstead Bagley, and I'm from the Westover District. And I wanted to share some thoughts about some changes from the Virginia Education Committee and how it affects us. The linchpin of the Declaration of Independence is the phrase, unalienable rights, providing the foundation of our freedom as Americans. It is a phrase that we rarely use in conversation today, but the meaning is that these rights are not to be separated, given away, or taken away. Rights separated from whom? Taken away from whom? Given away by whom? Our founders, Thomas Jefferson, James Madison, and 5 other Virginians, including George Wythe, Francis Lightfoot Lee, Thomas Nelson Jr., Carter Braxton, all of them Virginians, specified that our rights come from God. Our 7 representatives who signed the Declaration of Independence risked their lives to rebel against the monstrosities of King George III. These Virginians and the 49 other Americans knew very well the unalienable rights of which the English king had stripped the 13 colonies: freedom of speech, religion, the press, peaceful assembly, the right to defend oneself, one's family with the right to bear arms, the right to secure one's papers and possessions from unreasonable search and seizure by obtaining warrants without due cause, and the listing of the specific items to be seized. Every one of these rights has been whittled away in the lives of Americans in the last century and with lightning speed in the last decade. The Bible charges parents with the unalienable right and responsibility to train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. With the government increasingly taking private issues from the parents, such as sex education, gender identity, to cause the children to question whether they are girls or boys, or whether they can use the restrooms of the opposite sex, or males competing in girls' sports, I fear that the Commonwealth's Education Committee, left over from Democratic Governor Northam's administration, will remove George Washington from the textbooks as the father of the country, or the leftist students at the University of Virginia will remove Thomas Jefferson as the founder of the school, and that the progressive leftist curriculum of critical race theory that preaches socialism/communism/Marxism to remove our capitalistic free trade, pretending that the least prejudiced and most generous nation on earth has a racially motivated economy. Governor Youngkin is the new sheriff in town, and he is making strong moves to restore honest and godly education in the Commonwealth. Just because the highest government authority in Virginia has overturned the teachings that they don't even admit that they teach, it doesn't mean that they have stopped those despicable teachings or attitudes that will destroy Virginia and the United States. I ask you, members of the Board of Supervisors, make it clear to the school board and superintendents that our history will be taught rightly and thoroughly, and every trace of gender identity and Marxist economics will be completely removed from the public schools of Pittsylvania County. Please check on that. May God bless America and the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you. right, who we have next?
Bob Carlberg.
Mr. Carberg, come on up.
My name is Bob Carlberg. I'm from the Stanton River District.
Hey, Carl, raise your mic up a little bit. Thank you, sir.
So I come tonight to respond to a challenge that Mr. Warren issued in the last meeting to give a good reason why somebody wouldn't vote for the 1% sales tax. I'm not saying I'm against it. I guess my primary objection is the way that it is being presented. Dr. Mark Jones stated, quote, "A 1% sales tax for school capital projects will allow the county to pay for school renovation needs like roof and HVAC unit replacements that cost millions of dollars without requiring a real estate tax increase." The truth of the matter is, there is no guarantee that the citizens will not see a property tax increase in addition to the sales tax. If the board was willing to put in writing or resolution that the property taxes would not increase over the next 19 years that this tax is in effect, I'd be the first to jump in line and vote for it. But I doubt that's going to happen. So there's one reason. A second reason is, from what I can gather, this would make us the highest sales taxed county in the state of Virginia. That's not a distinction that I would call a badge of honor. So those are two reasons that I present. I'm not saying I'm for or against. I'm just saying those are answers to the question that you posed. The second matter I'd like to address is in response to comments I made at the last Board of Supervisors meeting. You may recall that I called out several sections and articles of the Board of Supervisors bylaws and Code of Ethics. Since then, I've been informed by a board member I will not name that despite the Pittsylvania County Board of Supervisors website clearly showing both Code of Ethics and bylaws, that there was no Code of Ethics in place. He said the comments published must be out of date and invalid. This is somewhat troublesome to me considering that the person voted in favor of a Code of Ethics on February 15th of 2022 with 3 other board members, and the motion carried in favor of the Code of Ethics. So can we believe the county website or not? And more important, how serious are all of you about ethics? Thank you.
Thank you. Caitlin, who we have next?
Brenda Bowman.
Ms. Bowman, come on up. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Brenda.
Good evening, Chairman Ingram and members of the Board of Supervisors, the staff, those in attendance tonight, and those of you watching from home. I am Brenda Bowman from the Chatham Blairs District, and guess what? Love is in the air. Love is in the air. Okay, smile. Agree with me? Please. Love is in the air. I'm here to bring you, I hope I got some smiles out of that. I'm here to give you a quick update on the love sign. You may have seen that the letters were delivered by Amthor International to the Old Dominion Agricultural Complex this week. The concrete pad was laid by Southside Concrete. We are fortunate to have these 2 great partners in this endeavor, and other partners are now designing the final touches for mounting on the letter frames. You will hear more about the partners when the sign is dedicated. Every facet concerning the sign, with labor and materials worth thousands of dollars, have been donated by businesses and/or individuals in Pittsylvania County. We are planning a formal dedication in November, and visitors to Pittsylvania County will seek out and share their photos on all social media platforms. They will be able to access through a kiosk next to the sign that includes QR codes to 1, learn more about the partners responsible for the sign, 2, go to the county's website with a link under attractions leading them to the trail of our 3 love signs in the county, located at ODAC, Wayside Park in Hurt, and in the town of Chatham. And 3, you'll be led to the Virginians for Lovers website, which will provide photos and directions to our signs. Stay tuned for more details as we move towards the completion. On a separate note, George Henderson, school board member representing the Tunstall District and president of the Pittsylvania County Sports Hall of Fame, has asked that I let you know that it is time for the 8th annual Pittsylvania County Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony and banquet. You are personally invited, and he asks that you please mark your calendars for Sunday, November 13th, 2022, 5 p.m. for this banquet and ceremony to be held at Tuscarora Country Club. The following 9 outstanding former or current citizens of Pittsylvania County will be inducted that evening. Lindy Michelle Beeman Bailey, Blair's Tunstall and Averett star athlete. Coach Jesse William Bennett, Dan River athlete, teacher, principal, coach. Coach Jacob Gruce, Dan River, Averett, West Virginia University Tech. Shirley Kinsley, Gretna Youth Sports, and recipient of the Hampton Wilkins Spirit Award. Coach Eddie Lloyd, Tunstall, Pennsylvania County Youth Football, sports writer and author. Joe Manaply, Tunstall, Virginia Tech, Detroit Tigers, Yankees, Reds, and Arizona Diamondbacks, pitched in the 2022 Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Woodrow Neal Oakes, coach, Dan River, Pennsylvania County Pony League, Little League, and Palmetto League, and recipient of the Hampton Wilkins Spirit Award. Coach Calvin C.L. Scarce, Tunstall coach, athletic director, principal. Coach Calvin Takata, Gretna teacher, football, and baseball coach. Thank you for allowing me to speak, and do you have any questions about either the love sign or the Sports Hall of Fame?
I don't think so. Thank you, Brenda.
Oh, good. Hope to see you at
I
both
do
of
recall
those.
Eddie Lloyd and Joe and CL are Tunstall people.
I hope I said that.
You did, and they are. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
All right. Caitlin, who do we have next?
Marvin Hilton.
Marvin Hilton. Come on down, sir. Good to have you.
Chairman, Board, appreciate the opportunity to come for you tonight. I live on Vandola Church Road. I'm a Westover district. I'm right in front of this luxurious RV park that's coming to town. And I too share some of the same concerns out of some of our previous speakers. I'm extremely concerned about the increased traffic. As I know, the primary entrance is going to be off 58 Business, but think about 58 Business. Think about how many residents and businesses are on 58 Business, not only in the city, on into the county, on to Roswell. Think that facility is not designed to handle the increased volume. You think about, you don't have the deceleration lanes, acceleration lanes to handle people coming in, slowing down. I can see a huge problem with that. Also concerned about the strain it's going to have on our local services, fire department, EMS, that sort of thing. But some of those, you know, the noise, trash. Trash is a big deal on our road anyway, because a lot of folks come into the dumpster, don't secure their loads. So what does that leave? That leaves the residents picking up the trash. And it's my understanding they're going to have, you know, back entrances off of Vandola Church for emergency services and for the dumpsters. So there you go, more trash. Who's going to pick this trash up? But one of my biggest concerns, you know, I bought that place about 8 years ago. Beautiful place. I've been part of that community my whole life. My family, my grandma went to that church on Vandola Church Road. And that road has been, you know, as previous speakers spoke, has been a residential, quiet community. I bought that place about 8 years ago. Never in a million years did I imagine in my front yard a RV park was coming. Never could I have imagined that. The last thing I ever would have thought would be coming to my neighborhood. So, you know, I'm very, very concerned about property value, but I shouldn't be, because if I go on Pennsylvania County's website, zoning, the main purpose of zoning, may I quote, to help protect property owners by regulating uses and ensuring that the future development is compatible with the area, ultimately protecting property value. Well, I don't think Vandola Church Road is compatible for an RV park. I don't see it. And again, I would like to ask the board, you know, you might not be able to see it from your front door, but I will. If it was coming to your front door, how would you feel about it? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Claudia Jones.
Claudia Jones. Come on down. How are you doing? Yes, ma'am.
Chairman Ingram and Board of Supervisors. I just want to announce that we're having a conference. It's called United We Stand for America at the Mill House at Motley Mill. I think they've changed the name to Motley Mill, what is it? Waterfall Estate. The conference will be October 21st, and we'd just like to invite you all to come. Our speakers are some international speakers. Dr. Jeff Jones, who is an astronaut, and he's retired from NASA now, but he was the doctor for the astronauts and cosmonauts, and he would travel to Russia every 3 months. He is now teaches medicine at Baylor University, and he does kidney transplants. He's a urologist. So he's one of our speakers, and he'll be addressing things that are medically important in our society and government today. We have just a great bunch of patriots who love our nation and are concerned about the things that are going on in our country. And so we'll have lunch. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., but we want to have a nice, healthy, beautiful lunch. I'm so tired of not good food anywhere you go. So our church ladies are preparing that. Anyway, it's going to be a great day. It's a Friday, October 21st, and we would just love to have you come. You go up 29, take a right on 57, and when you go over the little iron bridge, it's the first right, Motley's Mill. God bless you.
Thank you.
Hey, Bob.
Anyone else?
Ben Meeks.
I'm sorry. Who? Ben Meeks. Come on down, sir. Good to have you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all for having me tonight. Good evening, board members. My name is Ben Meeks. I live in the Gretna-Callens district. I've been a volunteer in this county for 13 years. I work in Lynchburg, Virginia, but I chose to stay here and raise my family. Got a farm here in the county, and I also have a small business here in the county. I've been ashamed, though, of the petty politics that's been going on the last year, and I hope we'll see an end of that soon. I'm here tonight to ask the board members to support the 5% increase to the block funding of the volunteer fire and rescue agencies. Some facts that I think the public needs to know. Number one, this money would be used from leftover money in last year's budget, so therefore it does not interfere with this year's budget or cost increased tax dollars to the citizens. Number two, the 5% increase to all volunteer agencies that is being proposed was directly requested by Chris Slint, who used to be the county public safety coordinator, who is now your county operations manager. This increase also has been also requested by the current public safety director, Chris Key. These men state that this increase is needed to continue operations and battle the inflation increases. This increase has been voted on and approved by the Pittsylvania County Fire and Rescue Association and the Pittsylvania County Fire and Rescue Commission. There was 18, fact number 3, sorry. There are 18 out of 24 agencies, per the public safety coordinator, Chris Key, that went over their fuel last year, some more than $10,000 due to increased call volume. Fact number 4, fire equipment and apparatus continues to rise at a rate we cannot keep up with. My agency alone just ordered a new rescue engine to replace a 20-year-old truck that costs $953,000. This increase was 47% versus the engine we bought in 2019. 47%, gentlemen. Number 5, per the Pittsylvania County Weekly Newsletter that is sent out, 80% or more of the EMS calls in this county is answered and covered by volunteer departments, not public safety. And if you take Medic 1 out of that equation, which is a primary ambulance in HURT, because there is no volunteer squad, then that number jumps to close to 90% of the EMS calls covered by volunteer agencies. That's put out each week by the county. I didn't make those numbers up. Number 6, 100% of the fire
calls in this county is covered by volunteers. Gentlemen, we are working extremely hard to answer the call when it comes, but we need your help to ensure adequate funding. Now, I know what's coming next from some of the board members. You're going to say that we have agencies that have large number of money in their bank, and you're correct on some of those agencies. But if we refer back to number 4 fact I stated just a second ago, fire trucks are now going for almost $1 million. That's not including the $10,000 it takes to equip one firefighter with a set of turnout gear, an air pack, or a heart monitor that we must have on an ambulance to defibrillate someone when they go into cardiac arrest. Those start at $35,000, by the way. And yes, to the Facebook warriors, there are several of our departments paying our EMS providers a stipend or even pay them as a wage and give them a W-2. We have to do this because of the call volume we're expected to answer. That doesn't mean we're still not a volunteer agency. I had 42 firemen run a fire call in the month of August alone, and none got a cent. The firemen get no stipend, but the EMS side has to have more incentive because the call volumes are so much higher and it takes so much longer to run these calls due to diversions and transport times. But consider this, we can stipend or pay an EMS provider much cheaper than the county can employ them under public safety. Just look at the budgets if you do not believe me. We put ambulances on the streets. We put 30 ambulances on the streets and answer 80+% of the calls for $400,000 more than the public safety department puts 3 ambulances and a QRV on the road. I invite each of you to a class we're hosting at Gretna Fire and Rescue on October 8th and 9th. It's put on by the International Fire Chiefs Association, and it deals with combination departments. Combination departments involving volunteers and career staffing. It's perfectly legal, gentlemen, and it's done all over the country. We save this county millions each year. Lastly, I'm sure the 990s will be brought up for the public to hear about, so I want to go ahead and touch on those real quick. Just so you know, public, a Form 990 is a tax document that a nonprofit agency must fill out each year to keep their 501c3 nonprofit status. This is very similar to an audit, which you must have a CPA to complete. It's 37 pages long, and it goes over every penny that is taken in and spent, cash on hand, etc. The IRS is 2 years behind in getting these posted on their website, but most agencies have a copy to be reviewed at their station. And no, most of us do not have our 2021 copy that can be reviewed yet because our CPAs request an extension each year, so they're not due until October 15th of this year because it is a very in-depth document. We do not fill out these, we pay CPAs to do these. Again, your volunteer agencies have to do these or they will lose their tax-exempt status by the federal government. So I say we let them do their job at the federal level and stop trying to paint a narrative that's honestly not there here at the local level. Gentlemen, I hope you'll make the right decision here in just a little while. I leave you with this tonight. And when I leave this meeting, like several hundred other volunteers across this county will do from wherever they go tonight to go home, I'll tuck my daughter into bed, I'll kiss my wife goodnight, and the last thing I'll do is I'll cut my pager on so that if a citizen needs help tonight, I can respond. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who's next?
Alan Casper.
Mr. Casper, come on down. Good to see you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors, as I've really tried to stay away from the podium, I really have, but tonight, and I know it's no shock to you, I'm going to talk to you about fire and rescue, following up with Ben there. I said I've listened to my fire chief, Ben Meeks, dot the I's and cross the T's, explaining the facts in a clear and concise manner that the citizens will understand. They will understand that one of the biggest problems we face comes from 3 members of this board, not from your volunteers. What the volunteers have done here in the largest county in Virginia is something that is a roadmap of success that many others have tried and failed to do nationwide. I'll use Gretna, for example, because I'm most familiar with where I serve. Well, let me say one of the agencies that I serve. Most of the volunteers that are here tonight serve more than one agency. That's what it takes to get it done. I also serve with the little department down near my home, Renan Fire. Love it. God's country. A few years ago, emergency medical services in the Gretna community was failing terribly. with only about 30% of the EMS calls being answered by the primary agency. People were waiting for sometimes up to an hour or more to get help. Volunteers put in countless hours to fix this problem by combining Gretna Fire and Gretna Rescue into one strong agency. And sure, it took the implementation of hiring some career EMS providers to get the job done, because answering around 2,000 calls for an ambulance each year was simply something volunteers could not do alone. Our volunteers do, however, run a bunch of these calls for service, along with taking care of the management of the agency. Chief Meeks and our Deputy Chief of Fire and our department president and myself as Deputy Chief of EMS all work full-time jobs, have families, and still take the time to make sure the job of Gretna Fire and Rescue gets done. And it's not just these officers, it's our lieutenants, treasurers, vice presidents, and all the other volunteers that make sure the job gets done. This saves Pittsylvania County millions of dollars. That's not an exaggeration. What do we get in return, you might ask? We get vindictive politicians doing everything they can to undermine us, largely because we failed to support the terminated county manager when he was fired from his job. We have got to get past this. I've been a volunteer firefighter and an EMS provider for 40 years. Ever since Joe Bloomer taught me my first EMT class in 1982. My family has suffered greatly without complaint due to my strong desire to serve my neighbors, many of whom I don't even know. I've held and cried with so many people I can't begin to count them. So guys, if your goal is to crush your volunteers, well, good job, because you're meeting your goal with abundant success. I identify as a conservative Republican, having worked campaigns from as far back as Marshall Coleman, George Allen, and Oliver North. And today it grieves me to be at odds with the Republicans on the board. Thank you for all taking the time to listen to my thoughts of a simple fire and EMS volunteer. In closing, I challenge you to prove me wrong by doing the right thing for your fire and rescue agencies, because I still believe we are all here to make Pittsylvania County the best place in Virginia to live, and I want to work with you, not against you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Scott Burke.
Come on down, sir. Good to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Supervisors. My name's Scott Burke. I'm sorry if you couldn't hear me. The reason I'm here tonight is to hopefully get you to join me in saying no to the RV park in the Vandola Road community. I've only lived there, my wife and I, my daughter, approximately 7 years. Moved to that area under pressure from my wife. The only thing I didn't like about the area was the bypass that I can see behind my house. I've learned to live with it. I've fell in love with the Vandola community. I've always lived in Pittsylvania County and spent most of my childhood and young adult life on Westover Drive. Again, several points have been brought out. I don't want to repeat those, but I will speak primarily on public safety and the changing of the community's landscape. Public safety, as we've all heard from our volunteers tonight, and I was a volunteer firefighter at Tunstall for 6 years. I know what you're going through. This RV park is going to place a tremendous burden on the surrounding county volunteer agencies. They're already taxed, they're already understaffed, they have a hard time getting the time to run these calls, and I applaud them, and I would hope on that note that you guys would give them the means in which to do their job and do it properly. Again, fire service needs, the police, the policing of this RV park, along with the access on our road, which is a very rural road, it's in pretty much disrepair, is a danger to the community and anyone that travels on that road. I know that the main access is supposed to be on Riverside Drive or 58, but that is not going to stop the services and goods coming into that facility, leaving that facility, delivery vehicles, etc. There's already traffic on our road. I'm all for economic development. I am all for the mega park. I realize that in itself is going to place a tax on our road as far as people moving back and forth. As far as what kind of element are we going to expect in this RV park? Well, I haven't always been an outstanding citizen. I used to go to concerts. I used to drink beer, go to NASCAR races. I worked at VIR. I know what goes on there. I've been involved in campgrounds around this great country of ours. I'm happy to say that the good Lord saved my soul a while back. And I do not condone that, but I do know what goes on. Certain individuals, and my main concern is the individuals that will frequent that place and fill it to capacity. I know what goes on. I've been a firefighter for I've got over 25 years experience in the fire service. I know what goes on. Drug use, since we've had Narcan on fire trucks in the Danville Fire Department, we use it every day. I'm not being judgmental, but that is a big concern to us. Law enforcement is taxed. How is this going to be handled? 454 sites on roughly 100 acres. It's going to be like a small city in front of Marvin Hilton's house. Noise problems. It's just, I ask that you would look at the people in this community and vote no to this RV park. It's not for the Vandola community. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barbara Hancock.
Good evening, Barbara.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to see that there seems so much concern about the children as of the earlier conversations. In fact, I started my medical career at Pittsylvania County Technical Center 36 years ago when I was 16. At the age of 22, I became a registered nurse. I spent 21 years working actively as a registered nurse and as a medical professional. I ask you today, how long are we going to let the genocide of children continue? And yes, I said genocide. The Vaccine Adverse Events Reporting System historically only reports 1% of adverse reactions and deaths. Did you know that children ages 6 months to 17 years are being given the COVID vaccine? As of September 9th, not only has the COVID vaccine reportedly killed nearly 31,000 adults, and remember, I said 1% is actually reported, which makes that nearly 3.1 million adults murdered by the COVID vaccine. It has also killed numerous babies, children, and teens. The deaths reported on the Open Bear site is 152 for 6 months to 17 years old. That makes that number actually be 15,200. Permanently disabled babies, children, and teens are reported from the COVID vaccine, 517. That number is actually 51,700. Myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart. Babies, children, and teens don't get that, y'all. 1,924 reported cases. That is, in actuality, 194,400 babies, children, and teens we are talking about that have been maimed by the COVID vaccine. Maybe you as leaders think that you can't do anything, and I include the citizens in this as well. But that isn't true. You can start a public campaign to share this information that I'm giving you right now, just like it was campaigned to get this shot, which is a deadly injection. I encourage every one of you here to go to openvaers.com. That is openvaers.com to learn more about how this so-called vaccine, as well as other vaccines, are killing and maiming babies, children, teens, and adults. Let's stop this genocide now.
Thank you. Who's next?
Sandra Meyer.
Welcome.
Hello. I'm nervous. Somebody told me to look at y'all and see puppy dog ears. I'd be all right. The Bible said not to look at their faces, so I think I'm going to do that one. My name is Sandra Meyer. I'm from the Blairs in Chatham district, and I'm here, I wish I could say because love's in the air, but I'm here because I love every one of you, and we care about you, and that's why we're here. Dr. Smith speaks out. The following was adapted from an article written by conservative radio host Alan Root and verified by Democrat mega donor Steve Kirsch. So I got everybody covered. A credible podiatrist has come forward who wishes to remain anonymous. He has to, for fear of losing his medical license for telling the truth about vaccine injuries. Let's call him Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith practices, and his practice is 60% people 65 and above, and they call them elderly. I'm a little offended by that because I just turned 65. But those are mainly his clients are 60% over 65. Well, out of that, about 95% of his patients are vaccinated, right? You would think that's a good thing. The unvaccinated patients are fine. No major illnesses or problems. But Dr. Smith says that over 80% of the vaccinated patients are very sick since the vaccination. What is Dr. Smith seeing? And listen to this. See if you recognize some of these symptoms, okay? From your neighbor, maybe yourself, your family, your friends. What is he seeing? First, the vaccinated are dying off. Second, he's seeing heart attacks, strokes, and blood clots in incredible numbers. Third, they're getting rare and advanced stage 4 cancer. Many of his patients were in cancer remission, but suddenly, post-vax, the cancer has come roaring back, except now it's spread everywhere in their bodies. He used to see skin cancer, and I've heard other doctors say the same thing, once or twice a month. Now he sees it several times weekly. Thyroid cancer has skyrocketed, and he reports that it's always diagnosed after they got the boosters. They're suffering debilitating neurological diseases, such as Parkinson's. They're experiencing terrible shingles. They're suffering serious intestinal issues such as colitis and diverticulitis. Any of this sound familiar? Many of his patients are experiencing terrible eye issues. One patient went suddenly blind in one eye while driving. He's also seeing more elderly patients experiencing falls than ever before. After hip surgery and knee replacement, his patients used to recover quickly. Now since they've been vaxxed, they often experience terrible post-op complications and need to be hospitalized. Dr. Smith's older vaxxed patients have aged horribly, literally overnight. They feel it and they say it to them. They say it. They come to him and tell him, and they say that they're falling apart. They say, I've aged so badly in the past year. I feel like I'm 100 years old. What's happening? Nothing in my body works, they ask. But everything worked fine a year ago. They were aging slowly and beautifully. Then they were vaxxed. It's been all downhill since. Just today, and listen to this, one of Dr. Smith's older patients announced his 4-year-old great-granddaughter has cancer. He was devastated. Dr. Smith asked the question that we ask so many times these days, was she vaccinated? The patient replied, yes. Why do you ask? Wake up, America. This is the worst medical experiment and healthcare disaster in history, and this is just the beginning. The vaccines only became widely available about 18 months ago, and it's only going to get worse.
Thank you.
God bless y'all.
Thank you.
Arlene Pilser.
Come on down. How are we doing on time?
This is our last one.
Last one? Good. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Arlene Pilser. I live on Climax Road. I have been a small business owner of 25 years of Cedar-Woods Dog Training. I have addressed the board many times. Generally on Tuesday nights I'm teaching, but tonight I'm not, so I came to give you this information. I have stood for the neighbors of my neighborhood on Climax Road about the safety issues of the tremendous tractor, trailer, and logging truck traffic on Climax Road and the safety issues connected to it. An issue happened on August 3rd of 2021, Tuesday, 6:30 in the morning. A tractor trailer logging truck came through my property, went over mailbox, took out a Verizon box, trees, and went through my fencing of my property. Took out a dozen fence posts at the ground and hauled about 200 feet of my fencing into my pasture. The truck hurled around in my pasture and came barreling out. He was coming from 57, went through my property and came out as my neighbor was coming out of his driveway, directly seeing this tractor trailer truck bail out and go towards Gretna. I am a member of the Callens-Gretna area, and Trooper Greg Harmon came out immediately and took a statement. The Tribune reported on this as front page news, asking for any information to be given out on this hit-and-run felony, which totaled about $4,000 worth of damage to my property. A week later, I got information from another source as to where, it was on August 10th, as to where this tractor trailer truck was. It was broke down in in another city. Well, close by. It was, can't remember. It's on the tip of my tongue. I gave that information immediately to Greg Harmon, and I heard nothing. On August 24th, I called Greg again, and he said he had been on vacation. I called Ben Farmer, who was the representative of my district, and he said he couldn't help me because he was on his way out and wasn't going to be my representative anymore. I called again in October 27th to Greg Harmon, and he said he's working nights, he's too busy. He couldn't go and visit the trucking company that was connected to this truck. This truck was identified with all the damage on it, on the right side of it, that did to my property. I have all the pieces that were on the ground from the mirrors and all the various things that broke off this truck. I had the name of the trucking company, the name of the logging company, and the license plate number. All that was given to Trooper Harmon the week after the incident on the 10th of August. On November, I called again, and he said he was too busy to deal with it or to go out and question this logging company, this trucking company. So then I called on the same day, November 15th, I called Sergeant Lane, who was a sergeant above him, and he said he would talk to Trooper Harmon. Never heard from him. On March 3rd, I called Colby Warren. Colby told me to call Brian Haskins. I've called Brian Haskins. He said he would look into it. I've heard nothing from anybody. Climax Road is still, used to be a beautiful agricultural place to live and is now noisy, dirty, and very hazardous to travel because of these tractor trailer trucks. Back when I was addressing the Board of Supervisors for 2 straight years before my husband became terminally ill and all my attentions diverted to him, I got no help from VDOT. I got no help from the Board of Supervisors. The people on Climax Road depended on me to bring this. We finally did get a public hearing 2 years after, and all the truckers came in and said, you can't keep us from going anywhere we want. And so that's what's transpired. Just wanted to bring you up to date on the hazards that we have on Climax Road. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Kalen, anyone else?
That's all, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. We're down to item 10. This is public hearings. Pursuant to Article 5, Division 6 of the Pittsylvania County Zoning Ordinance, the Board of Supervisors have been empowered to hear and decide specific zoning issues and zoning map changes in support of said ordinance. In accomplishing this important task, the Board is responsible for promoting the health, safety, and general public welfare of the citizens of Pittsylvania County. The Board must ensure that all of its decisions and regulations be directed to these goals and that each be consistent with the environment, the comprehensive plan, and in the best interest of Pittsylvania County, its citizens, and its prosperity. This is case R22-026, Ms. Ragsdale, and I shall open the public hearing at 8:24 p.m. Thank you, Emily.
Case R-22-026, Charles Thomas has petitioned to rezone 13.4 acres located on State Road 722, Oakwood Drive in the Tunstall Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for a Class B home occupation. On August 2nd, 2022, the Planning Commission recommended by a 7-1 vote with opposition that the petitioner's request be granted. Once the property is rezoned, all uses listed under Section 35-178 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, Charles Thomas and his daughter are here to represent the petition. And I will just point out that your packet does say 8-0, but it was a 7-1 vote.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Ms. Thomas, you and your daughter come down? Come on down. So just the daughter, huh? Okay. Welcome.
Thank y'all for having me. As I had went over in the last meeting at the board meeting, rezoning from R1 to A1 was strictly to have the privilege on my father's property to start my board and train dog facility. Of course, we have the ideas of expansion on what I fully want to make it, but we are starting off small just for the community that I have around me. I see some people that still wanted to have some issues as to why I still clear some things, as in visually seeing it, trying to hear or smell or anything like that when it pertains to dogs, or a manner of having them day in and day out at my facility. I have broke down many layouts, as I had said before, with many practical protocols, safety protocols for anyone not to worry. I have dealt with dogs many years on this road, and also don't have the day. They really don't matter when it comes down to it as the person I am. I hold 21 certificates that come from dog holistic health, dog protection, dog bites, dog obedience, and naming off over 100 to 200 behaviors and psychological behaviors that a dog can actually have when it comes to certain things, as in heat, fighting, safety, escaping. I will probably have the top security an actual kennel can have due to the area that I'm in for everyone's safety. I'm all about my community agreeing with me. I have a lot of people on board. I have a lot of people, not a lot of people, I actually have down to a couple people that still have a problem in an aspect. But through the years, I have allowed other things happen, such as go-kart racing, free dog roaming, and other aspects like that, that I think I consider to at least have a dream start on a property that I'm allowed to have it, to build how I need to, even if it's one dog at a time, or if I have the money that I said I do, to have the assets be made. And if anyone is miscoherent on the location that some of the people are saying it's going to be, I do have layouts of my boarding facility. So my facility is actually going to be no bigger, starting off at a 1,500 square foot, and that's with the outside kennels that run included. The building itself would be no bigger than a 30 by 20 starting off. If it gets any bigger of expansion, I will actually be moving to my own land that's a little closer, but not too much for a community as small as it is. But the area that it is, my father is giving me the privilege to make a beautiful and great outlook for dogs, and it's just a cause that I'm trying to do, if anyone needed questions on where it would actually be at.
Okay. How many dogs do you plan on having at any given time?
Starting off, I will have kennels, of course, for emergencies as well, is 6 to 10 pet suites, as I'm going to call them. They're just not no ordinary kennels to where they can go through chain link fence and chew and yap and go against each other. So I will start off to 6 to 10. They will actually be actual bedrooms built in the inside as a suite for dogs, and then of course outside runners for them, all separated individually to have their own space. Along with those 6 to 10 kennels, I'll probably have a few room areas. Say if I have a rescue or two, or if I have puppies, they are to stay inside and be walked out, with a person or employee at all times in the play yard. But I will not hold no more than 10. Starting off, I'll probably hold no more than 5, just to make sure all my protocols and what I'm making my layout is sufficient enough.
And I always watch your planning commission meetings, so it gives me a heads up. And you'd said something about some kind of electronic device to keep dogs from barking.
Yes, sir. So
Tell me about that.
It's actually a bark deterrent, so it's almost like a sonic beam egg that goes on corners to corners, depending on how many yardage you want. The actual security system that I have is a sonic beam, is the brand of it. It doesn't really cost as much as what people think it'll be, but it goes post to post. It'll actually cover up to 3,000 square feet if I need it to, but I don't need it for that, and I don't want it to hit my other neighbor's yard. But the bark deterrent comes into a high velocity synchronized sound that is a hertz level that humans cannot hear, but dogs can hear. So if anything were to rile them up, such as outside predators, deer, other dogs roaming, clients coming in from rescue squads, this is to turn on or be on at a certain matter of that to bring my dogs back down in a calming state whenever something like that comes off, especially during the night. But during the night, all kennels are accessible to outside runners during the day, but that is not to open up until about 6 a.m. in the morning, and they get shut down fully inside by 9 to 10 o'clock at night during noise ordinance hours.
You do understand there's a state code under the veterinarian's power to inspect premises, so you know, if this was approved, you would have an extremely high standard by which to operate your kennel, your grooming facility, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
State vet, a lot of animal controls and vets and all that, and even shelters are working with me and knowing what I'm capable of doing, and they are more than welcome to see when I'll start opening and building it.
Okay, okay. Any questions?
Just have a couple. I'm from the Westover district, and I've actually received a phone call on this. And the only question I have is, how close are your nearest neighbors? How far away will this kennel be from your neighbors?
So the problem probably with that is everyone, like I said, thinks the layout is different when it comes to my home. So you probably won't be able to see clearly from right here as I'm sitting. But of course, on Oakwood Drive right here, I do have from the premises, I do have a neighbor that's in front of me. I do have a neighbor that is behind me. Adjacent to the areas that we are in where my building is going, you cannot see it at all. I have done it. I have showed it. Of course, you see this big circle. We're surrounded by wooded area where my kennel is going to help with shading as well and not heat exhaustion. We are also going to line up in the wooded area, and we're going along the backside. Wood lines are going to stay, and once I get the facility going, I mean, the perimeter is going to be fenced all the way around, but it does not run into or in sight of any of my neighbors. And the insulation, the barricades, and the walling that I'm going to have is going to help with the sound as well.
So how many feet guesstimation? You don't have to be accurate.
Probably from where that's going to go, I would say I'm not good with that, but about 150, 200 feet, if I want to minimize to the least of that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else signed up to speak? What was the name, please? Bernie Jordan. Okay, come on up, Bernie. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Before you start my time, it's something I'd like to tell and ask, not concerning these folks. My mom wanted to be here, and she passed away. Pat Wells, you spoke with today, she had eye surgery. She couldn't make it. She asked, could I read what she texted for her, or I could call on the phone. And I can't remember the other one, so that'll be it. I'm ready for mine, and unless y'all make a decision, if I can speak for Pat Wells.
Yes, sir. You go right ahead.
I read what she sent me.
You sure can. Go ahead.
I can show you if you don't think she texted. Okay. Okay. If I wasn't told one thing and then another, wouldn't be asking such questions. But Jordan was the one who talked about where her plans were, and what also brought to my attention the woman on West Forks. These dogs were trained not to bark, but they do. Dogs over the woofing wagons be as bark too. Oh boy, she sent me so much. Those dogs were trained not to bark, but they do. Dogs over the woofing wagons be as bark too. Wouldn't have known they were there until I went by and heard them bark, and seen it, and to see a friend while they say to train the dogs not to bark. Okay, here's number two. Also, Jordan had a dream of training dogs. I have one too. Pay my house off, retire in peace, and that includes dogs barking. These are my talking points. I had the right to my property, just as she does, until they infringe on my rights to enjoy my property. That in itself reason enough to object to a kennel. Add me down with my notes to be read off, and it'll give you extra time. One of her concerns was this place not only going to be a training kennel, but a rescue shelter, and these folks are aligned with people in North Carolina. Her fear is dogs are going to be brought in from North Carolina, and our taxpayers are going to be paying for these dogs. And to get on a nonprofit organization, it really needs to be closely monitored by dog control or something like that. And I think that's about it for her, believe it or not. And now I'm ready for my turn.
You go right ahead.
Okay, I hope that's not what I got left. I presented y'all with some paperwork today, and I've had multiple issues with dogs of theirs who seem not to be properly trained. 2 dogs attacks. You have some pictures. Unfortunately, the library lost one. Pete handled the case. They were supposed to get rid of the dog. They didn't. Pete wouldn't do nothing about it. That's my fault. I didn't make a court case. The second time, no 2 dogs was attacked by the same dog that was supposed to get rid of. We went to court. We lost that. She actually took the dog over and showed it to him, and the dog had blood on his mouth. We lost. She lost 1 against 1. Apparently, you need 2 against 1 in a courtroom. The third time, Mr. Vaden was our Commonwealth attorney. It went from General District up to Circuit Court. They were found guilty of a vicious dog. It actually bit me and my dog. And you'll notice one of my dogs had his legs amputated where it got tore up. And then she was attacked that night of the vicious dog attack. While getting it out of his mouth, I was bitten. So my concern is safety with my kids. I'm down to about 1.5 dogs. And my dogs are Pomeranians. They're very little. These dogs have pit bulls and stuff like that. And I don't know if they still got the dog. I know they had to keep it up. And I'm sorry, I'm starting to get into a panic attack again from the COVID I had. And my concern is the safety, the noise, and the smell. August the 18th, we was awakened. It sounded like somebody was beating on my door. I was scared to death. I got up and opened the door and come to find out they was outside fighting. I guess one wanted to get in and they wouldn't get in. Well, behavior like this 3 or 4 times, it's going to cause dogs to bark. Andy's got enough work on him right now, keeping that 13 acres up, and he does a good job. But also, have a lot of issues with him on intimidation and stuff like that. You'll see notes on there, cussed out for more across property line 1 inch, things like this. And this is only going to add to it. One time he rode by and held up a rifle. Sit at the pool, I get cussed a lot. And then he's also a felon. And Lord have mercy, I'm starting to get into it again.
Bernard, if you would, please stick to the zoning issue, because that's what we're talking about.
That's just it. This is going to add to the problem. And I'm more worried about what if the dogs get loose and attack my kids? You know yourself, if an animal gets loose and it makes a beeline, you can't stop it. I'm worried about the noise. You go over there to West Fork, any one of you ride over there and just ride by, them dogs is barking like crazy at 9:30 at night. Lord have mercy. I apologize. I get PTSD from the COVID. I'm worried about the smell. And in closing, this is what I like to ask for. If I lose this, I can take my licks. We voted for y'all. I'm proud of all of you. But I want to put a fence up, and if I do this and I lose this case, I want to not be contested by Mr. Thomas. I want no intimidation, and I want no animosity or vulgarity. The property line is clearly marked by Mr. Thomas, and my fence is definitely 1 inch off the property line like he asked a long time ago. Another time, I seen him come in the driveway, get out the car. My brother's 3-legged dog was walking across the yard and laid down and expected to get pet. He went over and kicked him like a football. And this is the kind of anger that's going to be displayed with these dogs if they get mad. I seen him chase Philip Brown's horse around with a four-wheeler. I seen a dog run across the yard with 2 chickens in his mouth, and he went over and shot it.
Bernie, we're talking about zoning. These issues are not really relevant right now. So get back to the zoning if you would, please.
Well, that's just it. I'm worried about problems. I'm worried about my grandkids playing. I'm worried about smell. And if, like I said, if I lose this, I want this building to be at least 500 feet from my house. I do not want no waste stored next to me, or no smell, and any noise complaints will be answered.
Well, I'm sure if it gets that far between Ms. Thomas and Ms. Ragsdale, they'll work with you. They'll do what they can, okay?
And she stated that she come talk to all the neighbors. I haven't seen the first thing, and her dog got away the other day. She come over and talked to my wife 15, 20 minutes, but we never heard nothing about this.
Okay.
So I wouldn't, that's all I got to say, sir.
All right, thank you, sir. Caitlin, will we have anybody else signed up?
My wife.
Oh, Tammy Jordan. Come on up, Tammy. Good evening.
My name is Tammy Jordan. Okay. I have a problem with this, of how close it is to my home. Now, my dogs stay in their yard. I have a pool. I would like to be able to go out and enjoy my outside, read a book or whatever, instead of hearing a bunch of dogs barking constantly, 24/7. It's like I took my husband down to a therapy place. Okay, they had a dog warden place right out there. They bringing their dogs out and they just barking and fighting and carrying it. All right, one of these dogs got out. My grandchildren, I got one 5-year-old, 8-year-old, and a 10-year-old. They're out playing around. What's going to happen if one of them dogs get a hold of one of my grandchildren? They don't know anything about these dogs. And half of the people at the first zoning meeting we had, I don't even know who these people are. They don't even live around anywhere we at. They don't know nothing about what's going on up there. And, you know, I do. And she was talking about that, the first meeting that she said she was ready to buy out anybody would want to sell. Well, if that's going to come in play with them bringing that kind of facility in, it's going to downgrade my property. So before you bring it in, if you want to buy my property, it's up for sale. So anytime they want to write out a check, I'll be more than glad to sell to them. They can have the front and the backyard. You know, because we just live, our home is right here, and then we got a little bit of pack of trees, and then there's home. There's their home. We can see everything from there.
How far away by way of feet or yards?
I would say it would probably be, yeah, about 200. About 200.
200.
Feet.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Because, I mean, I can see from my house to their house, and they can see.
You're talking about 200 yards or feet?
Yeah, yards.
Yards?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Huh? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
thank you.
200 feet, 50 feet, I don't care what it is, but the thing is, and where's all the poop going? Where is all the, I don't understand this part. I mean, you're going to house a lot of dogs. Where's all this poop going? Or are you going to let it keep piling up, and then when he has a big bonfire, you're going to throw it in there and burn it?
I'm going to ask Ms. Ragsdale to come back up, so thank you, Tammy. Yes, sir. Come on. Emily, I know a lot of those questions came up when this came before the Planning Commission, so if you would address the sound, the barking, and the waste.
You may want to ask the applicant to explain how she's going to deal with those. I would feel more comfortable if that came from her than from staff.
Very briefly, if you would. And listen, Emily, is these stipulations documented in your packet?
So this is a rezoning, so we cannot put any conditions on this case. They would have to be proffered conditions from the applicant, which she has not proffered any conditions currently. But there are things in the zoning ordinance. This would have to be built to building code. She would have to meet setbacks in the zoning ordinance. And then obviously, you know, we could get involved through the noise ordinance and things like that. So there are some regulations that we would have.
I did want to hear it from you. Thank you. Ms. Thomas.
Yes, there are regulations that we will have, and I will say I deeply apologize for all those lies that we just endured. But I'll
That's
go
it.
ahead and say that the past and the past on relationships and anything does not have anything to do with the business and dream and future that I'm trying to have with these dogs. My main thing on the noise ordinance is, of course, I told you the bark deterrent, and of course that the insulation, it depends on my building. That will also be cinder blocked around with rock put in it to come back as a whole concrete platform on it. I will have a fence all the way around the perimeter, which we had already planned to do that since we have had problems in the past of that. My dogs have never actually came out of my control. I don't know what that sense is. So me having the dogs or training that I have, you wouldn't have to worry about escape. You wouldn't have to worry about smell because daily there will be trash takeout on that. It would not stay on the property, that's for sure. But I also have a $5,000 to $10,000 system that'll be there for biodegradable when things would get like that.
Okay.
But that wouldn't be the case.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else, Kathy?
That's all.
All righty. Having said that, let me read this motion. In case R22-026, I make the motion to approve the rezoning of 13.4 acres from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to A1 Agricultural District to allow for a Class B home occupation. And that is the motion. What about a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley.
Mr.
I want to
Chair.
add a couple of things. First of all, we have to lean on what our planning commission does. They were appointed by this board. And if we're not going to sort of go along with what they recommend, we might as well not even have them. But based on the conditions and everything that I've heard, that's my motion. We have a second. Any further discussion?
Can I get you to close that public hearing?
Oh, yes, I'm going to close the public meeting at 8:47. Thank you. Any other discussion?
I would like to say that I, in the past, have denied these kind of rezoning cases against the Planning Commission. I believe someone wanted to extend a kennel that was in a residential area that caused a lot of noise, and I don't necessarily need to go with the Planning Commission on anything that I make a decision on for my district, but since this is your district and is something you obviously have put your time and effort into, I will vote with you on this one. But keep in mind that, the Planning Commission, just because they approve an initiative doesn't mean that we have to approve it at the board level.
Well, we're just approving the zoning, not the kennel per se, and that's just future plans. So. All right. All votes are cast. Your property's been rezoned. Thank y'all. Gentlemen, I'm going to do something I don't think we've ever done before. I'm going to call for a brief recess, about 5 minutes.
It's going to be great.
Trust me, brother.
All right. If y'all would call the meeting back to order, please. This is case number 2.
Mr. Dalton.
It's the first time we've had an intermission since I've been on the board. It was well needed, wasn't it? Okay, case number 2. This is case R22-027. I'll open the public meeting at 8:56 p.m. Ms. Ragsdale.
Case R-22-027, Caesar Investments LLC has petitioned to rezone 11.21 acres located on State Road 792 Millstream Drive in the Bannister Election District from R1 Residential Suburban Subdivision District to RPD Residential Planned Unit Development District to allow for multiple dwellings to be constructed on the property. On August 2nd, 2022, the Planning Commission recommended by an 8-0 vote with no opposition that the petitioner's request be denied. Once the property is rezoned to RPD, all uses listed under Section 35-293 are permitted. The staff summary is enclosed in the board packet. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure if Yolanda Caesar is here to represent the petition, but if she's not, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Anyone else sign up, Kaylee? Okay. Ms. Ragsdale, 2 things jumps out at me. First of all, the Planning Commission voted against this project. And then there's substantial opposition by the Virginia Department of Transportation. So that's 2 big issues. There's nobody here to speak in support of it. So is there anything else you can tell us?
The property owner, or Ms. Caesar, was requesting to rezone because she wanted to construct multiple townhomes on the property. And as with all rezoning cases, staff sends that to VDOT so they can look at entrances, especially if it could potentially increase traffic in the area using the entrance. And with the potential trips per day coming in and out of this property, VDOT did not feel that it had the appropriate site distance in order for them to install the needed entrance. So with that, staff did not feel that we could recommend approval of the rezoning.
All right, thank you. So no one signed up to speak. I'm going to close the public hearing at 8:58 p.m. And I will make a motion that we deny case R22-027.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. Gentlemen, any comments on that? All right, cast your vote. Okay, that's unanimous. That petition's been denied. We're down to other public hearings. Each person addressing the board under a public hearing shall step up, give his or her name and district, and or his or her place of residency for non-county residents in an audible tone of voice for the record. And unless further time is granted by the chairman, shall limit his or her address to 3 minutes. Speakers for a group shall be limited to 10 minutes. Speakers shall conclude their remarks at that time, unless the consent of the board is affirmatively given to extend the speaker's allotted time. Absent chairman's approval, no person will be able to speak who is not signed up. So, what do we have here, Ms. Galen? Ms. Vanderhyde.
Yes, so tonight's public hearing is pursuant to Virginia Code Section 15.2-2507 that states that any locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount to be appropriated during the current fiscal year as shown in the currently adopted budget as prescribed by Section 15.2-2504. However, any such amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditure shown in the currently adopted budget must be accomplished by publishing a notice of a meeting and a public hearing once in a newspaper having general circulation in that locality at least 7 days prior to the meeting date. An advertisement of the county budget amendments attached appeared in the Chatham Star Tribune on August 31st, which satisfies the 7-day legal notice requirement. We did discuss these amendments at length during the Finance Committee meeting, and it was decided at that time that we would pull the $174,500 amount for public safety, and that would be discussed under new business tonight. So the recommendation from staff, based on the Finance Committee's recommendation, is to approve after the public hearing an appropriation of $15,713,189.98, which is the amount that was advertised, less the public safety funding of $174,500.
And that public hearing was open at 8:59 PM. Anyone sign up to speak?
Yes, sir. Matt Hunt.
Come on down, Mr. Hunt. Now, just to make sure now, as far as the fire and rescue issues, we pulled that, we're going to address that separately.
Yes, we're going to talk about that later, but they did sign up
Okay.
since that was originally in this public
Okay,
hearing.
I just want to make sure. Come on down, Matt. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Good.
Matt. Hi, I'm Matt Hunt. I live in the Tunstall District. Have been a volunteer for 23 years, active volunteer, and I am a business owner and a farmer. I'm here tonight to ask you for your support for the volunteers of this county that have been carrying this county since the 1940s on our back for this money that we're going to address, the $174,000 later in this meeting. Let me ask you a question. Are you a volunteer? Why aren't you, in some aspect, fire, EMS, or a board member of your local agency? Have you ever held a baby that has passed as its mother and father stand over top of you begging to save it? Or someone's hand that has died in a wreck with the children and spouse beside them? While you work your hardest to save their life, then have to deal with the PTSD of volunteering every day of your life. If not, don't be the armchair quarterback and tell us what we need or don't need because you have no clue. We're asking for this additional funding due to the rise in call volume along with inflation and cost of living. If you do not support this, it will send a clean message considering every department in the county has an increased call volume and cost of living. Also, this clear message will be sent if it's not supported because of all the departments, governmental departments that have already gotten their raise for this year, some in excess of 10%. Along with cost and volume going up, the volunteers ran 10,468 calls last fiscal year in Pittsylvania County. This does not include mutual aid due to public safety not tracking mutual aid, which would be another approximately 900 calls. Of those 10,468 calls, 7,677 were EMS. Fire was 2,791 on a budget of $1.8 million, or $171 per call to the Pittsylvania County residents in comparison to the 1,925 EMS calls run by public safety on a budget of $1.4 million, or averaging out at $727 per call to the local residents. The ROCA or return on current access is proof in the pudding on that. The monies we are asking for is $1,000 less per agency than what the ex-director of public safety, Chris Slimp, recommended in the Fire and Rescue Association meeting and the Fire and Rescue Commission meetings, and has been approved twice by them. Do you not trust your own supervisors and or committees? In the July meeting, a representative on this board said he would support our monies if found in carryover money, and it was. Will you stay true to your word? In closing, please work together for our community and your residents on this. If you need to call 911, you expect us to come. Stop the petty bickering and bashing of each other and of us, and of certain residents doing the same. This is making our county look like a joke. Last, if you need to to see my 990, please come by the station between 8 and 5, as the state statute says. It's available to the public, and stop using governmental employees to do the dirty work and wasting the taxpayer money. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Yes, Mike Neal.
Mr. Neal, come on down. Hi, Mr. Neal.
Hello.
Good to have you, sir.
Thank you. Okay, basically I'm going to talk on base of what Meeks and some of the other guys talked about tonight. So my name is Michael Neal. I've been fire chief of Ringo 33 years. I'm vice president of the Fire Association. I've served this county 53 years as a firefighter and 32 years as a rescue. Our department runs one of the largest departments in the county on the southern end of Pennsylvania County, covering large industrial parks, a new Tyson plant coming in, the new Arrow Farms just started, along with 3 schools and probably about 11,000 people we cover rescue. Okay. So basically, you know, we're here tonight for this association to support the allocated proposed funding for Pennsylvania County Fire and Rescue, and it went through the County Fire Commission also. That was proposed in July, and Ms. Vanderhyde mentioned a little while ago that the money that they found in the surplus fund, I know they talked about the contingency fund, they didn't want to move some money from that, and I'd actually talked to Mr. Warren on that and understand that, because there's a whole lot of stuff could come up emergency that you would need right there. So the fiscal year started in July. It is September the 20th, and I guess some of this is our fault also. So most of the time by August the 10th, the fire departments have received their first annual payment. We get 3 payments due in a year. That's a 50% payment, and you know, we hadn't got it as of yet. It starts July, and it usually comes out sometime in August for it. Now, the contract, the agreement hasn't been signed, you know, for all the fire departments with the county, and I'm sure that's one thing that may be holding it up also. We do have a meeting tomorrow night, and hopefully we can get this taken care of. So, a couple of them mentioned we operate 21 departments in this county. That's a lot of fire departments, 21. We have over 120 fire trucks. We operate 10 rescue squads in the county with about 25 transports. Matt was just mentioned the call volumes, 10, 12,000. Talked to a guy today, we've already run 2,100 calls since July 1st, July, August, and September the 20th, 2,100 calls. And it's just more and more each day, you know, more burden put on. You know, the biggest thing is, and it's like this for all of us in your home life, you go to the grocery store, I mean, this country is really going to pot per se. I mean, the inflation, the stock markets, the cost of vehicles, everything you go is just out of the realm of cost. And, you know, it was mentioned earlier, our last payment we get, you know, it depends on, did you go over on your electricity, did you go over on your allocated fuel, and blah, blah, blah. Most of us went over on diesel, and it was not our fault, your fault, and nobody else. $3,500 to $10,000, you know, was less on checks. Some people really didn't even get a check because of that, okay? So at the end of the day, you know, that really put a chunk on us because of the price of diesel fuels and everything else, which nobody in this room's fault. Equipment has gone up so much, 7%, okay? So I'm looking at Gretna has ordered a new truck, Mount Herman has ordered a new tanker, Blair's is waiting on a new ambulance, which they direly need. The one they got now has got 115,000 miles on it, and I think Dean told me the transmission has come out of it. So they're running 1,500 call volume, excuse me, one ambulance, and we've ordered a new fire/crash truck, okay? So in doing so, we signed a contract in January. If we'd waited February the 1st, it would have went up 7%. We ended up getting this truck for $688,000. We'd waited February the 1st, there'd been another $44,000 increase. That's what everybody is running into. So what, we're looking at, it was originally appropriated that the department, some of them were given like $7,500, and some of your smaller departments was $4,500. So in sitting down and working together, everybody agreed to try to give each department $6,000. That's the small departments to help them, because their cause is just as important as the big departments, okay? And, a lot of us running fire rescue together, and some of us just run fire. And for example, Mr. Dudley, your area, you got Renan and Hurt, I think, so far.
That's correct.
Both of them do great jobs. They're great fire departments. So they would get to 6,000 instead of 45. So it was an increase like we went to that area also. Now let me just say this, and $6,000, this is a good chunk of money. And when you put it all over together with 21 departments, I know it adds up, okay? But today's real world, on February 1st, I'm just going to use a MSA air pack. That's one air pack. You see it on TV or whatever, you real firefighters or whatever. It's the packs on the guy or girl's back. It's got the tank. It's got the mask. It's 45 minutes. January, they were $6,000 a piece. They went up 20% February 1st. They $7,200 a piece. So what I'm comparing that to is hopefully if y'all would vote this tonight, that $6,000 in essence would help buy about 80% of one air pack to put one person, one firefighter, man or woman, in a burning house. $6,000 would not even pay for one air pack. That's how much stuff is going up. So, it's tough trying to make it out there. We mentioned the 990s, and it may come late up today. Our 990s, we try to run our department like a business. You got to run these volunteer departments like a business, like it was Interstate, Brockway, Goodyear. I'm just saying that. I know a lot of y'all are businessmen, especially Mr. Warren. I know he's in big business. And at the end of the day, you got to run it like that. And that's what we tell our people. So our 990 is available. So we make money and we save money. So people look and they say, well, Ringo had $500,000. So Ringo had $600,000. Okay, we did. We didn't want to go to the bank and borrow $500,000 to buy a fire truck. So you can go back. I don't know what it's going to show tonight if it comes up, but we wrote a check January the 28th. Bob Lee Wilson's on my board of directors. He'll verify this. We wrote a check for $250,000. So take $250 off of my $990. My truck will be here next year. It's $433,000 balance. So take another $433 out of that for next year, okay? We're looking at $688,000. That's why we save money to try to pay cash for stuff. And everything, thank you Lord, we have is paid for. All our station, our land, our 11 pieces of equipment is paid for. I call that pretty good management by our board and our people, our community. That's pretty good business in trying to run something like that instead of running around here owing somebody $1 million. So that's, if you see that, that's what that is. Last thing I want to mention is, let's go back. I'm going to go back in time a little bit and you'll figure my age out. I'm going to go back in the 70s. And I just want to say this, okay? And y'all all are good people, okay? You're good people. Everybody's got differences, but you're good people. Back in the 70s, my daddy, Calvin Neal, and I think some of you remember him, you do. He was on the county board of supervisors. And as a little kid, I was, 16? I was very proud of my daddy being on the county board of supervisors. He served from 71 to 86. He was up here 16 years. He served with people like Edwin Shields, Claude Whitehead, F.A. Cates, Tommy Gatewood, Fred Ingram. That's just the ones I remember was on the board of Daddy. My daddy was the first fire chief in Ringgold Fire Department when it started in '58. I remember my daddy talking, and he said, we're going to give these county people some money. He made a motion, and everybody supported 7-0 to give each fire station in this county $10,000. And to my best of my ability, that's the first money was ever given. Since then, the fire association started. Steve Finkner was the president. We had a little committee. We'd get with people on the board, sort of present a budget. And since then, it's rolled on. And you all, as of today, have always supported us. The County Board of Supervisors has supported fire and rescue for 45 plus years. That's when it got started. And y'all still do it today. And without it, we probably wouldn't make it, okay? Let me say that again. Without your support, we probably definitely wouldn't be where we are today. I promise you that, okay? Because I know, because I've done this a long time. So I just want to say thank you for your support, and I hope with Miss Van Hyde finding the money she found, hopefully, you know, that's not going to put us up in the top of the world, but it's going to help. Every penny helps. And we out here doing projects, trying to match up and help too, and keep running these calls in this county, protect our people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Kermit King.
Peanut, I think you're up next. Oh, sorry, Kermit King, come on up. Good to see you, sir.
First of all, good evening. I won't take up much of your time, but I'm just going to echo what these guys have already said. Thank you all for hearing us and bearing with us tonight. I know it's been a long night. But like I said, my name's Kermit King Jr. I reside in the Callins-Gretna voting district. Been living in Pittsylvania County all my life. I've been a volunteer for 30 years. I think the only person tops me right now is Mike Neal. And some of the people he named off, I have dealt on the board with them. You know, talking about Fred Ingram over the years, I've dealt with Fred. But anyway, like I said, I want to address the need for the increase for the fire rescue. Like I said, money for the increases will be coming from surplus money, not contingency money, not from raising taxes, but extra money that was found from last year. And we really appreciate Ms. Van der Haag for finding that money, and the board for saying, you know, if we could find it in contingency and surplus money, that they would approve. But also, as we know, we go to the grocery stores, everything for the last couple of 3 years, it's gone up in price. It's almost doubled in price. And like Chief Neal said, this money, we're not talking about an astronomical amount once you spread it out over every agency. You know, you're talking about, a little bit, but a little bit goes a long way for us. Also, like I said, the volunteers in Pittsylvania County, they're still covering 80% of the EMS call and 100% of the fire calls in this county. So, that says a lot for them. Public safety supplements us. They supplement us well. They do a good job. Nothing against those. I know it was made mention of some of the 990s, but that's a federal document. We can't control that. That's what the federal government says we have to file to keep our nonprofit status. Also, if you go back and talking about what Chief Neal said, the EMS billing, it was actually an ordinance put in place, if you all can correct me on this if I'm wrong, by the Board of Supervisors years ago to allow us to do EMS billing. So when that passed right now, we don't want it to be used against us just because some of these guys have got out and done the work and made the money. I mean, so they doing the work. They don't get this money by sitting in the station. They got to go out and answer the call to get this money. In my 30 years, I've held about every position in fire and EMS. I've been from candidate to a fire chief to a fire captain of a rescue squad agency. So I know what these fire chiefs are going through in these agencies by trying to keep up with their agencies. When I got started in fire and EMS as a volunteer, my job would let me leave and go run fire and EMS calls. And they would pay me just like I was there. That's not the case now. As employers go, if anybody's hired employees lately, you can't hardly find them. I talked to Director Keith sometime, if he had a blank checkbook, he couldn't hire enough people. It's hard to find any employees. But I'll wrap mine up in a little bit. But anyway, like I said, every time you become a volunteer, you actually lose money. It's money out of your own pocket. So, it was the stipends and paying some of the administrative people to do their job. it's well worth it now in this economy because, you know, we lose so much money. It's a full-time job to be a volunteer fire chief. And if you didn't have them, the county would lose a lot of funding, a lot of grants, a lot of money, you know, everything. Because when these agencies call you, they want somebody there to answer the phone. And I was just blessed enough and fortunate enough that I could do it on some of my jobs that I wasn't supposed to, but I did it anyway for the sake of these departments. Also, you know, in that I'll wrap this up, but like I said, we talked about the schools, you know, doing the 1% sales tax increase, and I think this board referenced one time that 30% of this money will be paid by outside sources. And we call that, and you call that a win. That was, direct term was a win. All right, now, you got these agencies running 80% of the EMS calls and 100% of the fire calls. Why not fund them and call that a win? Thank you. Any
Thank you,
questions?
sir. Thank you.
That's all, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
That's all.
All right. I now close that public hearing at 9:21 p.m. So what's your pleasure, gentlemen? I will make the motion to approve an appropriation of $15,887,698.98, I guess, is presented tonight. Do I have a second?
Mr. Ingram, you need to amend that motion because if you say it the way you said it, it doesn't exclude that 170-some thousand we're talking about later.
Yeah, okay. Take note of that. That 170-some thousand, whatever that was, I don't recall the exact amount. We're going to exclude that, set that aside. We'll address that separately. So amend that a motion. So what about a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion? Not, gentlemen, cast your vote. Okay, that's passed 6-0. Down to item 11, unfinished business. Mr. Rowe still here?
He's not, but Mr. Schlimp is going to
Come on down,
take
Mr.
this
Schlimp.
item.
You're going to talk about the HERT tipping fees, correct? All right, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to very quickly cover this for Matt. As you're aware, we've had quite a bit of interest over the last few months in the Southern Virginia Multimodal Park at HERT, and that property is owned by HERT Partners LLC. Back this summer, they started proactively removing non-hazardous construction debris located on site and disposing of that material at the county landfill. This work is being done at HERT Partners' cost. It is a significant cost savings to the SR RIFA. HERT Partners has requested that the board waive the landfill tipping fees associated with the cleanup at the property in a sign of partnership. If you recall, at the June meeting, there was an item on the consent agenda that originally allowed for them to, or agreed to waive the tipping fees for HERT Partners for the cleanup in the amount of $82,000. Since that time, they have aggressively been working to get the property cleaned up. There's more material than originally thought. So they have come back and asked if we would waive a total of grand total of $164,000 in tipping fees. This is again non-hazardous waste which we can't accept at our landfill. The economic development staff recommends the board approve the landfill tipping fee waiver for HERT Partners that is associated with the cleanup of non-hazardous construction debris at the Southern Virginia Modal Park.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Mr. Dudley, that's in your district. What's your pleasure on that?
That's actually twice what we
correct.
originally thought.
Yes, sir.
And it is, they got into some digging, doing some testing, found some things that they didn't know was there.
That's correct.
I just think it needs to be known. And, you know, it started at 82,000, that's 164. My question is, what is it going to be next? I mean, could it be more than that?
Honestly, I can't answer that. I don't believe so. I think they've got a good handle on it from what talking
Okay.
with Matt. as far as I know, that I believe they've got that.
Do they know how much more they've got to clean up? Is Matt not here?
No, sir, Matt had to leave to work on
Okay.
another project.
Okay. Do you know anything about this, Vaden?
No, I don't.
Okay, okay. Yeah.
It's up to you.
I mean, if you're going to approve it, I definitely would put some kind of ceiling or cap on it.
Yeah, you have to.
You have to, because
Absolutely.
I think that's what we should, if you're going to do that, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so with that, originally started out at 84, it went to 82, went to 164, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Doubled
Yes, sir.
up?
Yes, sir.
No more than, in the motion, 164,000. If they come with any more, they got to take care of it.
They pay
I'm
the tipping
just,
fee.
and I think
Absolutely.
that's fair.
Absolutely, I think so.
So I'll make the motion to authorize the county attorney to petition Pennsylvania County Circuit Court to issue a right. Am I on the wrong one? I'm sorry.
it's been a long night.
Yeah, it has. I'm sorry. I do apologize. County staff submit this matter to the board and its review. I'll make the motion with a cap of 164,000. And we'll go with that. I'm not real happy with the fact that, we started and they come with that in June and told us that, and that's what it was going to be, and we waived those tipping fees. What is it going to be again? That's my question. So 164 will be the max. Thank you.
All right, what about second?
I'll second that motion with the same reservations that Mr. Dudley stated.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions?
I apologize. I was looking down at the next item. I do apologize as far as the motion. So, yes, been a long day.
Okay, that's passed 6-0.
Thank you.
We're up to new business. This is 12A. Vaden, you want to go ahead and introduce this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. As many of you probably already know, our colleague, Mr. Jesse Barksdale, resigned from the board a few days ago, and it was for personal reasons, and please respect his privacy and take it at face value. But having said that, that leaves a vacancy on this board. So we came together tonight and agreed on the process to replace Mr. Barksdale. And what we're going to do is, starting tonight, we're going to ask anybody that resides in the Bannister district that's a registered voter, that's a resident of that district now, to go on our website and fill out a citizen's interest form, or come by the office, or ask one of us and we'll bring it to you. And if you're interested in filling the vacant seat left by Mr. Barksdale, you fill out that form and submit a resume. That's not an absolute, but I believe if I wanted a job, I'd fill out that resume. And we're going to hold that open until Tuesday, October the 4th at 5 o'clock. So if you miss the deadline, you miss out. So having said that, we're going to ask that if you mail it, if you do it by email or whatever, you send it to our clerk, Kayla McCluster. She'll collect all of these applications and interest forms, and then she'll hold them in confidence. We will not see them until we meet on Tuesday, October the 4th, and at that time or thereabouts, maybe they'll be emailed to us. And then we can look them over, come together as a board, and hopefully decide who we choose collectively to take Mr. Barksdale's place, which will carry that person, whomever it may be, to fill that seat until a special election will be held on November of 2023. So having said that, do I need that in the form of a motion? All right, I just did.
We've kind of
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that county staff be authorized to contact the county circuit court to issue a writ of special election for a special election to be held on November the 7th, 2023, to fill the board's Bannister electoral district vacancy. And in the meantime, for the temporary process, we will follow the procedures as outlined by our chairman.
Absolutely. There's a motion. What about a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Cheshire. Any other discussion or comments, gentlemen? Not? Cast your vote. And I might add that Mr. Barksdale is going to proceed on and hopefully have a good long life. And I do want to thank him for his service. That brings us down to item 13, matters from the work session. I do believe we have a few on that. Caitlin?
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, something's in my throat. We're actually down to 12C, which is the public safety appropriation.
Okay, this is 12C, Public Safety Appropriations. Kim, if you would give us just a short overview, and then we'll go from there.
Yes, so at the end of the year, we did look at our budget to see what was there, and tonight's public hearing had all of the carryover amounts that came from the prior year. So I did identify some monies that were available that we could use instead of using the FY23 funding that we had placed in the contingency budget for items for public safety. One of those was moving the EMS call amount from $10 to $25, or 15 to 25?
Was it 15
It was
to 25?
15 to 25.
Yeah.
It was a $10 increase. 15 to 25, that was $77,500 in total based on the call volume that we have now. And the other portion was $97,000, and that was to increase the base amount for the matrix. And that varied from agency to agency, and I think Chris Key went over that with you all this afternoon. And so those items were identified, and of course during finance we decided to pull those off so that you all could discuss those separately.
Okay. I'm going to make the motion that we approve these two items, the EMS call increase to $77,500, the base amount for the matrix at $97,000. Do I have a second? Second, Mr. Ingram. Thank you, Mr. Dalton. All right, discussion time, gentlemen.
Okay, I'll go first because I've already talked to Chief Neal, and Kim, don't you go anywhere. First of all, Kim, I think it's only fair to the citizens. What do we currently pay monthly of the expenses for the fire and rescue departments?
We pay for heating fuels, we pay for fuels in the vehicles, we pay the insurance on most all of your vehicles at the fire and rescue stations. We pay for training for EMS and fire usually. That is shared type training. Am I missing anything? Where's my fire people?
Okay, and generally speaking, when we allocate carryover money back to the school system, where does that money come from? The school budget that they didn't spend?
Correct.
When we give vacancy savings back to the sheriff, where does that money come from?
The sheriff's office.
Money he didn't spend. How many fire and rescue departments didn't spend their allocation last year?
We gave them all their money back. So everything that was allocated was
So
given.
in reality, there was no fire and rescue department that had any carryover money.
Correct.
That's the answer to a question where somebody said, give us our money back. You didn't have any money left. The next thing I'd like to mention is, Mr. Meeks, Captain Meeks, I have a great deal of respect for you and what you've done in Gretna with that. Very much, you and I have had the conversation. However, I am very confused because the last several months, I've heard from the individuals you indicated made promises because they have categorically denied making those promises, nor did they have the authority to ever make those promises. I want to be really clear to the citizens that when we go through the budget process, everybody has a wish list. The sheriff generally brings us in a book like this. Everybody wants everything. Everybody understands that. And I don't blame you guys for wanting everything, because you got to ask for a lot to get something. That makes perfectly good sense to me. So I don't hold anybody accountable for that. But I am going to say this. I applaud the agencies that have already signed the agreement. And I do want them to have their money right away. But part of the reason you don't have your money, Captain Neal, is because you haven't signed the agreement. The second thing is, I've stated before, I don't have a problem with seeing the need to go from 15 to 25. I will not support it tonight, though, because I think it's time everyone's right. Put the politics aside. Don't come up here again and threaten that you're going to make sure I'm not elected again, which has happened in this very room, because rest assured, I'm done. I'm not going to put up with this anymore. So you're not going to have an opportunity to vote me out. I'm voting me out. And you better get off of that, because we need good people to run in this county and serve this county just like you all serve. This is not an easy job by any person sitting on this board. And for anyone to be making threats like that is just ridiculous. The next thing I want to talk about is I don't have a big problem with $97,000. But I think it's absolutely ludicrous for us to take money out of our general fund. Tax citizens, if you give this money away, you lose control of it. If you keep it in your general fund, you have control of it if we have a major disaster that requires some money. As I said in the Finance Committee, if we have a department that comes in March, April, February, that's had a major disaster, they lost a pumper, I'm at first to get on the soapbox and say, we got to go help them guys get that pumper. I don't care what it costs. But to think we ought to just spread $97,000 out because somebody without authority, if it happened, told you guys you was going to get it. If we want to earmark it as an emergency to go back in your emergency fund, it should be fine with you guys. It doesn't make sense to me that you think every agency ought to spread out and have a little dab. I've heard a couple of the larger departments say, we understand we got to help out the little guy and the medium-sized guy. But that's not what I'm hearing tonight. You want your personal money. You don't want to leave it allocated where it could be used for the middle guy or the little guy. You sent the agreement over here, and we were told categorically that you all were okay with the agreement. We send it back to you, and you send it, not unless I get my 97 too. Come on, guys. Be real with your people. If you're really about serving the people, then it shouldn't matter if the 97 is allocated to emergency to help someone in great need versus someone that, let's be honest with each other too. If you run a ton of calls, and you should get it, you earn it, but you get a lot more money from those calls from insurance reimbursement, Medicare, Medicaid reimbursements, and the departments that run smaller get less. But guess what? All of us have a certain amount of capital expenses that are across the board for the same amount of equipment. So citizens out there listening tonight, don't think this board and your Chatham Blair's district don't support fire and rescue. I support fire and rescue from top to bottom. And no, I don't run any calls, but I make an annual contribution every year. I also don't serve on the board because, one, prior to serving on this board, I wasn't asked. And two, if I go serve on that board, I can't vote on your budget or anything because it's a conflict of interest. But I write the check every year, and they need that money to operate too. I campaign for my department to help get them money because we don't have our building paid for. I've gone to the far end of the county when they needed money and wrote them checks. So don't come in here and point fingers about not running an ambulance call or a fire call. There are other needs by the department. Now, I truly appreciate you guys. I'm going to vote no on these tonight with the hopes that you will go back to the fire commission meeting and come to the conclusion that we can work together on this, that we can move from 15 to 25, and that we can put this 97,000 aside for a need of any of the agencies throughout the county if that occurs. So everyone in here tonight, everyone listening, I want to be really clear. Bob Warren supports fire and rescue, but I don't support padding people's budgets. Sheriff Taylor, if we did this tonight, we ought to write him a check for everything he asked for. We ought to do the same thing with Scott Budd back there on IT, because he asked for a lot more than he got too. So should every other department throughout this county. There are more departments than just public safety and fire and rescue. We have a tough job to balance those acts. I think that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Anyone else?
I'd like to say it through a few words. I'm going to vote no against this initiative as well tonight, and the reason comes down to transparency and accountability. I've been talking about that all year long since January when the majority of this board took away all the accountability that we had with the Fire and Rescue. That was approved by every agency, by the Fire and Rescue Commission and the Fire and Rescue Association. That included reviewing 990s every year before funding was released, and it also included 2 at-random audits of the agencies at the expense of the county. Those are minimal requirements in my book, and I've been a full supporter of the fire and rescue agencies the almost 7 years I've spent on this board. My goal has always been to pay for 100% of the operational cost of the agencies and try to pay 100% of their vehicle and apparatus cost. We were working towards that until January of this year, and I will not support any fundraisers. I've said that more than once. Until those audit protocols are put back in place, I will not vote for any extra funding for fire and rescue. We have a responsibility on this board to the residents of this county who pay the bills. We have to show them where the money goes, and we have to be good stewards of that money. And I can tell you, I've talked to a fire chief in Henry County, and they have to take their audit information twice a year to include their 990s with a CPA audit and take it to Henry County twice a year to get their funding. So I don't understand why the minimal auditing protocols that were in place last year had to disappear when every agency approved those protocols. Again, as soon as we have something back in place that I'm happy with, which is the minimal we had last year, I will again start supporting fire and rescue. It's a simple thing. And again, I have a responsibility for the citizens of this county, not just for fire and rescue. I'm responsible to the people who put me in this chair. And I'll hopefully, I haven't made a decision yet, but I would love to step down. But if I keep getting the heat from this stuff, I'm going to stick it for another 4 years, because I'm not going to back away from these issues just because of one special interest. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Dalton.
Yes, Mr. Ingram. listened to the comments and everything here tonight. I agree with some of them, and a lot of them I don't. I know the money that we had put in the contingency fund, we didn't have to pull it out. Ms. Van der Heide has found the carryover money. I mean, I cannot say thank you enough to our volunteers in the county. The time and they put in, and I mean, you can't schedule a heart attack or next firehouse or fire at a house or wreck, anything like that. These volunteers, as one of them just spoke about this equipment being $7,000 for air pack. I mean, and some of them might have money for it, but I'm here to support it. I mean, I just voted to support $164,000 for a tipping fee, so I sure don't have no problem voting for $97,000.
You done, Mr. Dalton? You done?
Yes, I'm done.
Thank you, sir.
Mr.
Mr. Warren?
On 164,000, there is no lost revenue on that. There's just space. The second thing is, I agree. If they have a heart attack, I want them to show up. But if I have someone breaking in my home to harm my family and all, I want the sheriff's department to show up too.
I do too.
And all of his costs is increased too. Ms. Van der Heide didn't pull no magic wand out. These contingency funds was because other departments didn't spend their money. They were good stewards of their money and had some left over. So it wasn't a crystal ball. It happens every single year. And if we keep not ever having any left over, then we're going to have a problem. And then we're going to have to hit the general fund, and you're going to be back in bad financial shape like you was several years ago.
Anyone else? I've got several comments that I'm going to make. First of all, Ms. Van der Heide, when we get our audit done every year on the county, have we ever failed an audit?
No.
No, we haven't. And that audit is comprehensive about just about everything that we do and we spend, correct?
Yes.
Okay? All right, so I will agree that being held accountable is very important. So when you look at the monies that we give, per se, to help our fire and rescue volunteers, every bit of that is accounted for. They have to sign a service agreement, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But everything that you spend is accounted for. And that in turn comes back through public safety, through the auditing process. I mean, it's just accounted for. So I don't know about y'all, but I'm pretty tired of hearing about a 990 because, see, you've got to understand your role. You've got to understand what lane you're supposed to be in. That is a federal issue. We have no control over making a organization, a citizen, a business. We have no control over making them report honestly to the IRS. Now, thanks to the current administration, there's going to be 87,000 new IRS agents out here. So, you know, if you feel like somebody's done something wrong, I think now's the time to pick up the phone and drop a dime on them. But as far as our fire and rescue, you cannot put a price tag on what these men and women do for us. The number of times they leave their dinner table, they get out of the bed, they leave birthday parties, Christmas. Listen, I know. And so when you look at this 97,000, if you spread it across all these departments, you're looking at less than $5,000. I just don't see where it's that important to deprive you guys of what I would call a minimal amount of money. And so I support that. And, you know, if you came up one day with something that was just far-fetched, years ago we had to offer to have a helicopter, a Bell helicopter. I didn't go over very well. We've never gotten a helicopter, but that was back in the 70s. But I think you've been reasonable. I think you've been good stewards of what we've given you. I see the accountability. And again, it borders harassment, in my opinion, and I'm not going to be part of that. So when this audit idea came up under the Smitherman administration, the great swimmer, he had it in for a couple of departments. I heard him say it. And so with that, I got to thinking about, well, what's the motive here? And so if he wants to know what Gretna has in the bank or what Ringgold has in the bank, again, if you're good stewards of the money that you've worked for, that you should be complimented for that, not criticized. And so when this audit stuff came up, I called Stephen Gay, because I do business with Harvey, Harris, and Neal. And I said, now listen, there's some misunderstanding. Do you not want a list of donors? Do you not do a sample inspection of donors? He said, yes, we do. So when it was said that nobody would dive into your personal donors, that was sort of swayed, because it does happen. And you can say what you like, but if that information came from that CPA firm and it came over here or went to anyone, how absolute are we that it wouldn't get out? So anyway, but I just had enough faith and confidence in the reporting procedures from the chiefs to the board of directors, many of which have respectable people. I mean, well, I guess all of them do. But I think about H.F. Haymore, and I think about Bobby Wilkerson, who's here in the audience. And if those guys thought that their department was doing anything wrong, I think they'd be the first to step up and say something about it. So, I do support this, and, I respect my colleague's decision, but again, you just can't put a price tag on what you guys do for us, and I thank you for that. Anyone else?
Yes, sir. I have a follow-up to that. Ms. Vanderhyde, when our audit's done, our auditors doesn't delve into the books of other reporting agencies, so we don't know whether they reported accurately or not. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's just
It's
our side of it.
our side of it. It's not others.
Correct.
Thank you.
Which would be a issue that would be addressed by the Virginia Department of Taxation or the Internal Revenue Service. It is not our job. I've said this and I'll say it again. It's really none of our business what these gentlemen have in the bank. It's none of my business what Mr. Warren put down on that check. It could be $10, could be $10,000. But I just respect when people donate, I respect their privacy. That's all I'm trying to say. My words of it's none of our business has been taken and skewed. And that's okay, I get it. But I respect people's privacy. It's just like what you put in the offering plate at church. It's between you and God.
Well, Mr. Ingram, with all due respect, I 100% agree with that assessment. However, we're not putting our money in. We're spending taxpayer dollars, and they hold us highly accountable for those dollars. And yes, we should be able to document that. I'm not hung up that I think that we have people out there with fire and rescue cheating. I'm just saying we require all the other entities that get funding from us to have an audit process. And Danville, Pennsylvania County Community Services, Community Center, Community Action. I just think it's a bad precedent not to be across the board with it. So it's not that I'm pointing fingers, anybody's doing anything wrong, I'm not doing that. I'm just saying when it comes to taxpayer dollars, it's a different animal than me writing a personal check or Mr. Ingram writing a personal check.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? If not, gentlemen, cast your vote. Okay, unfortunately, that motion was defeated. That brings us down to, what's the next item, Caleb?
The appointment of the interim county administrator.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
The appointment of the interim county administrator.
Okay, who has that?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
All right, go right ahead, sir.
I make a motion to appoint Baden Hunt as interim county administrator effective September 22nd, 2022 at a rate of pay equal to the current interim county administrator for a 90-day term with all powers established by state code in county as a county administrator, the 90 days could be cut short in the event that a permanent replacement was hired before the 90 days.
Okay.
And one other thing, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I do want to follow up that Mr. Hunt has made it categorically clear that he has no interest in being a permanent county administrator. He's just willing to step out and help us.
Can you blame me?
No, he's willing to step out and help us during this time and assume 2 roles. This will create a significant financial savings over the next 90 days to the county.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, also, if I can have the floor.
You do, yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. Just to let you know, this is not the first time you've done this. This is, how many times have you, as interim or fill-in or whatever? It's been several times. So we're not getting somebody that's not experienced. We're getting somebody that has done this, that has no desire to do this permanently, but will fill the gap for us. So very, very thankful that we can take care of that tonight. I appreciate everything Vaden does. He's a great attorney. He's in on everything, and that's what we need right now, is somebody in that point. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
And he said to also remind that he did not put in for the county administrator, so.
Mr.
Yeah.
Hunt, do you
Just
promise
wanna
that
make-
you are not an applicant?
I do promise.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Anyone else?
Did I second it, or who made the motion? I'll second it.
Okay. Have a motion, have a second. Any further discussion? All right, gentlemen. Cast your vote reluctantly as it may be. Mr. Hunt, that was unanimous. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your willingness to step up. That brings us down to Finance Committee recommendations. All right, who has that? Welcome back, Kim.
Yes. So the Finance Committee met this afternoon, and there were several recommendations made by the Finance Committee to the full board tonight for your vote. The first item, we had Shannon Hare from DCC that came to request funding for a truck simulator that DCC would like to purchase for those that are seeking their CDL license, and that would help with those classes. And the total cost of that piece of equipment is $100,000, and they were seeking 40% of that from Pittsylvania County, and they were seeking the rest of that funding from the agencies or localities that participate with DCC. That would be the City of Danville and Halifax County. So the donation is contingent on DCC securing the remaining funding from other participating localities, and the funds that you all would be contributing would be coming from your board's contingency fund. That's the first item. The second item dealt with providing a full-time clerk's position for the Pittsylvania County Clerk's Office with a starting salary of $36,000 plus benefits, and that is also to be funded by the board's 2023 contingency fund in the amount of $48,934. The third item dealt with Horseshoe Road, and that project is going to be done in its entirety, and the funding would be coming from the funding that had been originally allocated to Horseshoe and to Robin Court, with the thought that VDH funding would be used for the Robin Court project. And that total is $1,838,382 to go specifically for the Horseshoe Road project. And you would also be awarding the contract for the Horseshoe Road project to Classic City Mechanical Incorporated, and that total amount is $2,045,894. And the last item dealt with approving the capital improvements project and economic development funds as presented this afternoon, and has been gone over extensively with you all for the FY23 budget year.
Okay, thank you, Kim. What about a motion to approve the request by DCC for the this truck simulator? Well, I'm going to make that a motion then. I support that. I think it's a great idea.
Second.
Okay.
If it's okay with everybody, if everybody is in agreement, we can just do that as
just
one vote,
clean the
everything
slate.
that she
How about
just
that?
presented.
I'm good with that. I just
Yep.
had a couple more comments.
Okay.
So I make the motion that we approve all of these requests.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Warren.
Third.
All right. No, I think what y'all are planning at DCC is phenomenal. It's a truck simulator that gives people the opportunity to see what it feels like to learn how to drive a tractor trailer. And a lot of people are scared to death of driving something that they're not comfortable with. So I think that's a fabulous idea. And if you don't get the funding from the other localities, being the city of Danville and Halifax County, we don't pay. But I'm sure Shannon will get that money somewhere or another. Mr. Scares, thank you for being a good steward of the people's money, because every year he sends back to the general fund a lot of money. One year is like over $80,000. And he's been working short-staffed and never complained. So I've been on him for a better part of a year to come over and make this request. I'm glad you finally showed up. So we did approve that. As far as the Horseshoe Road, that is not in my district. It's in the Westover district. But if you go back and look, I was the first supervisor past the supervisor made a motion that this needed to be done because we had a lot of people that had water problems, and I was proud to support that. And so having said that, that's my motion. Mr. Warren, second. If you would, cast your vote, gentlemen. And we on our way.
I don't remember Mark not complaining. Now, wait a minute. He's sitting in the back.
I was being gracious.
I know you was, yes.
Okay.
Gotcha. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Scares, clerk of court, it passed. Thank you, sir. Have I missed anything, Kaylin?
We are down to shell building moral obligation agreement.
Okay. Who has that? Anybody?
I'm not sure. That
Mr. Chairman,
was a closed session item.
I make a motion that we approve the moral obligation. We have received confirmation on some items we had questioned about. Is that not correct, Mr. Hunt?
That's correct. We received an email from Kim Larkin confirming that today.
Yeah, we got an email from Ken Larkin, city manager, and Matt Rowe. So we're good on that. What about a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Dudley. Any discussion on that? All right, cast your vote, gentlemen. And that has passed unanimous. There was a chamber request. Were we going to pick that up sometime later?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay, just double checking. Thank you. All right, we are now down to board member reports. Mr. Cheshire.
I want to thank everyone for being here tonight, and hope everybody has a good evening.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Dudley.
Yes, sir. Thanks, everybody, for coming out. It's 10:03. It's been a long day in meetings, and people are tired. And I got on the wrong page a while ago because I was tired. But farewell to Mr. Mundy. Thank you, sir. Tomorrow is your last day. Thank you. Appreciate you. Also, I really want to thank Jesse Barksdale for his service to our county. Jesse and I are friends. Jesse and I would meet every 2 or 3 weeks in Gretna or at a different place, and we'd sit down and we'd just break bread and eat together. I wish him the best. I think the world of him, and I just want to wish him and his family the absolute best. Thank you again, Mr.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to jump down to Mr. Dalton.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to echo some of those remarks. We want to remember Mr. Barksdale and thank him for his service. I want to thank Mr. Mundy for stepping up and helping us out, and I wish you and your family the very best. I thank everyone for coming out, for all your comments, being here, and that's it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Scares.
First of all, I'd just like to thank the residents from the Bandola community that came out tonight, that Their opposition to that RV palace that's coming up is very important. We have to hear that from the citizens, and I just want to reinforce what I've told them in 2 separate meetings, that I do not intend to support that project when it comes up next month. So I hope they will come out again and give us their views on that RV palace. One other thing, I want to thank the board for approving the Horseshoe Road upgrade for their water system, and I would encourage every one of those citizens out there to call the board, especially Vic Ingram. This would not have been approved if Vic had not supported it, and I think it's only right that they call and thank everyone, and especially Vic, for getting that project pushed through. It was so important for those citizens out there, and I truly appreciate it as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Warren?
Yes, sir, I don't have a lot to say tonight. I've said enough.
So you do or don't?
I don't.
Okay.
I do want to echo some of the comments about Mr. Barksdale. I had the pleasure of serving with Mr. Barksdale for almost 5 years from prior tenure, and we made a bunch of trips to Richmond together, standing up for Pennsylvania County on several issues. And you know, Mr. Barksdale, during the time he wasn't on the board, was truly a community-involved individual and served on a lot of committees and made a lot of good decisions to help support and get the good name of Pennsylvania County out there. So he will certainly be missed, and I only hope him great things as he goes forward, and his wife. Also want to thank all of our staff. It's been a long day. In particular, Ms. Vanderhyde, for all of your efforts in preparing our numbers. You always do a great job. We appreciate that. It's so important. All of them are important, and they do great jobs. Mr. Hunt, I appreciate your willingness to step up. You've done an outstanding job during this time, as Mr. Mundy has served us well, but Mr. Mundy came in and said he could only be here a limited number of hours per week, and you know, I think Vaden's been your kind of go-to backup guy, so it should be smooth transition over the next few days. So I wish you and your family
The best.
the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Warren. I've got several things I want to cover real quick. As far as economic growth, you hear that a lot, but we've had some pretty good wins. Just recently, we had a ribbon cutting at Area Farms. That's a phenomenal vertical growth facility. I made a mistake in saying I've never had kudzu that tastes like that, but we had Tradesman Trucking that came to Gretna, and of course Tyson's is under construction. So just in that small park that we managed together with the City of Danville, you've got greens, you've got chicken, you've got dressing with Lighthouse. September the 26th is what's called National Law Enforcement Suicide Awareness Day, and this is close to several of us in this room. I've had several colleagues through the years that have in fact committed suicide, 3 that work for Pennsylvania County when you go back in time, with the recent one being Grubby. But this is a day created to recognize the service of officers lost to suicide, to raise awareness about suicide in law enforcement, and to remind officers and their families that they are not alone. That is so key, and that help is available. This day will help to reduce the stigma associated with seeking help and recognize that one moment in time does not define a life. I want to thank Lisa Toot for all of her wonderful work as far as being over our library. She did a really phenomenal job. We had Chamber Awards the other night, and there's a place up in your neck of the woods, Mr. Dalton, called Funky Fleece Farms. They won a grant from the Chamber, and I didn't realize that it was not in the packet that Kaylin gave me earlier, but she won what's called the PACE Award. And that's a very distinguished honor given to young professionals. You have to be under the age of 40, and she just does a absolute phenomenal job, and very, very well deserved recognition as far as that PACE Award. I have to echo what my colleagues have said about you, Mr. Mundy. You came in when we needed you the most, and you're leaving us when we need you the most. But it'll be okay. But this was your second time around, and like I said, you worked with us. You brought a balance. You were part peacekeeper, part referee, but most importantly, you did a good job on relatively short notice, and you showed us that you're a true friend of this board and to the citizens of Pennsylvania County, and I can't thank you enough, and I'm going to miss you. Appreciate your service. Again, I want to echo the resignation of Mr. Barksdale. What a true servant. Not only did he serve on this board on 2 separate occasions, but he served on other boards. And if you knew Jesse Barksdale, you had to love him because he was such a good man, and he will be missed. And Scott Hutchison, you just got promoted. Congratulations. I wanted to mention that. And apart from that, I'm going to make the motion we adjourn and go home. Thank y'all so much for being here.